heartbeat. I can hear your heart. Forever in your heartbeat. Forever in your heartbeat.
Yes, you're very quite tough, always having bad luck. You think you're going crazy, look up, there's a new life waiting. Your head's buried in the sand, you've been dealt the wrong hand. Can't imagine how you feel, only you know that it's real. Don't look back, just carry on, carry on, carry on. Don't look back, just carry on, carry on, carry on. Because you are stronger. Yes, you are stronger. Because you are stronger. Yes, you are stronger. Yes, you're very quite tough, always having bad luck. You think you're going crazy, look up, there's a new life waiting. Your head's buried in the sand, you've been dealt the wrong hand. Can't imagine how you feel, only you know that it's real. Don't look back, just carry on. Because you are stronger. Yes, you are stronger. Because you are stronger.
Welcome back, everybody, to the SEL. We have more Valorant action coming up quickly this week as we are a little bit behind. We're going to try to get through this fairly quickly. We'll go ahead and show our bracket up to this point for the playoffs, and it has been a very tumultuous ride for, I'd say, most of these teams here, Dallas. A very rough go about it, but you make it up there into playoffs, you get into finals finally, and you're just waiting for the team. You're waiting for the other team to now, know who you have to face off against. And it's a big question up in the air because the game we have going on here, they've got to take the semifinal for the losers bracket and then go into the finals for the losers bracket before even having a chance for the finals itself.
It's a long and tumultuous ride, to say the least. I mean, even though already you're just looking at the upper playoffs, that's just half of the story that we had to work with. Because even then, the story that we're pinning out, at least here tonight, is to be taking place in the lower playoffs, besides the likes of the RRG Orange and Louisiana Tech Blue. Two teams that we've seen before to a certain degree, at least Louisiana Tech. We've highlighted them a couple times, had an interview with one of the players last week, go ahead and kind of get an idea of what their ideologies are like. And even then, still making it with 2 subs in their roster in the meantime. So great stance for them. Good for them to be making it this far. But RRG Orange, I believe, is a team we haven't really spotlighted too much inside this season. We talked about them. We've seen them in the bracket a couple times. We've mentioned them, obviously, because they're a name in front of our face. But I'm excited to see that we now actually get the chance to get them on stream. I don't know if it's because of rescheduling or what the situation may be, but for them to finally be here and be ready for us to cast over them and see what they're made of, especially to be in a stage like this, I'm excited to see what they can do, especially if they do end up winning this by any chance. Why? Better yet, and what they can really do to bring to the table against GT White if it comes down to it.
Yeah, and GT White statistically is a team that had trouble in the normal part of the season. They've done pretty darn well, except for obviously the loss they faced that drops them down into lowers. 7-4 total throughout. Fairly good, but the 4 losses can add up, and it's something that the other team's going to look forward to, saying, hey, where are they on stream? Do they have a VOD? Do they have something we can kind of see that, gave those other teams the leeway to get those 4 wins? Can we employ that ourselves? Especially considering these are just BO1s. Half the battle comes down to that map ban, and that's going to be the big one, an important one here as well, especially when in the semifinals, and you really want to get for that potential for the losers finals and then the grand finals at the end of the day. RRG Orange has been here since round 2. You mentioned we haven't seen them very much. They had a good win up in the winners round 1. That was the only win they took in that upper side. It was against Texas Tech University, who also got dropped down and unfortunately relegated in the losers round 1 as well. But they've since then had a very good state about it. UGA Red is actually a huge game for them to take a win with. You could say the exact same thing when it comes to KSU Black and for Florida Blue. By far, I would say their difficulty they've had to get to this point is undeniably more than what we've seen from Louisiana Tech, despite the fact you have Orange is a ridiculously good team. Clemson's a good team, yes, but my goodness, has RRG Orange had a battle to contend with, and they're coming into this one very strong.
No, I mean, yeah, especially considering, looking at their side of the bracket, what they've had to gone through, Kennesaw State being one of those kind of top real cannon teams that we've seen so far, for them to be continuing as well. Even to shut down UGA Red, the team that did do actually very well during the regular season, had their positive record, had a pretty clean record when it came around to the last chance qualifier. And since then, to go ahead and get knocked out in that first round to kind of continue things on, get that second round of losers, and then go ahead and end up against RRG, who did inevitably win that. Now, the biggest thing in this matchup, I'm going to say, has to be the fact that obviously Louisiana Tech has a lot more of a bigger run in that upper bracket. They faced a lot more, even though you mentioned the kind of tumultuous and very difficult opponents during the lower bracket. The better guys, it's just facts, are going to be in that better bracket. They're going to be in that top bracket. They're going to be going the ones that have been flawless thus far. Well, Louisiana Tech has had a lot more experience up there. They made it nearly all the way to a certain degree, really just going ahead and showing what they're made of. And especially last week going against UF Orange, you're going ahead and you're seeing these brackets really start to pan themselves out. And to know that in this lower bracket, where they face Clemson Orange and UF Orange, who also had themselves a much further run, you're kind of saying, at this point, what really do they have, quite frankly? And honestly, seeing the development of this team, you and I have talked about that kind of crew before. We can even then go ahead and spotlight that player, Lazy, that we've seen on time and time again. To be that spotlight player, to have that kind of moment to really go crazy. You can see they're choosing maps that this guy can start to excel. Obviously, sitting on that Raze, we saw him debut on Lotus, and now here on Bind, you get to kind of see that acceleration once again turn up.
2 names that immediately jump out at you, Dallas, and I think you're gonna have the same idea for me for LA Tech is Lazy, like you mentioned, and then J Crew. J Crew is just always on the board for LA Tech. They're so good with supplemental information and supplemental utility. We've seen them on splits and do an exceptional job. We've seen them on Bind, which once again with this pick here, like you said, that really helps feed into Lazy's playstyle, and I believe J Crew's as well. I can't help but feel that LA Tech got away with a map ban that they are going to be feeling extremely confident on, but they can't grow overzealous. They can't grow overconfident because there's a reason RRG Orange is here and they are still in it to win it. For the picks, it seems to be a pretty much mirror matchup across the board. The Viper is being teased over on the other side. There is, once again, the battle which I'm thinking of in my mind is going to be that raise on raise between Surge and Lazy. But I think Bubbles and Jake are going to be just as important because you're leaving that Cypher behind towards Showers. You're leaving them defending solo over on that B side instead. And if those players can't find impact by their lonesome, which is so important on that defensive side and on the hold for the attacking side for watching the flank, your entire team strategy devolves into just a hopeless retake, praying numbers can be regained with a lucky pick, or praying that they don't rush you down despite getting that man advantage as your attack has now already been snuffed out on the opposite side of the map.
I mean, with these recent Cypher buffs, so quite frankly, I mean, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to do every single bit of that. I mean, those trips are, absolutely just disgusting. Not too much of an actual differential in terms of those cages, but they're going to do what they're going to do. I mean, it's the same old at the end of the day. You mentioned two players. I always like to go ahead and take a look at Jeeton, or better yet, these Sky mains. Jeeton, obviously, we're in the Sky player card, playing Sky in every single game we've seen this year. I mean, I got to give love to my peers, but even then more so, just seeing what this guy's done. He's been an absolute assist master. Flashes have been on point. The Trailblazers found so much effect just from this guy and the kind of routes that he takes with it. And even better yet, the kind of pacing they'd like to go ahead and allocate on top of that utility with the rest of the team and how they like to kind of play side by side. It's a little bit more of a marching lane than anything else. But already seeing what we got out of RG Orange, not too much of a difference. Obviously, with these Cypher buffs, he's going to be kind of your default. He's already kind of was. And it was between him and Chamber for the longest time, or for at least a little bit of time. But since those recent buffs came out, it's undeniable who's king. It's either KJ or it's Cypher. Really, who comes down to who's better accelerating on these maps. So knowing that we're going to be getting into things now, knowing that this pistol round is going to come up, we got to see better yet not only what the default looks like to a certain degree. We're not going to see that too much. We're going to see, obviously, the pistols. You're going to be full pushing. You're going to be looking for these kind of outright frags. You're going to be looking for these early kills and looking just kind of work off these numbers because that's all you have to work with, quite frankly. But knowing what we're working with here, seeing these two teams, I just know I don't know how much they're really going to switch things up. I don't know if we're going to see some full commits. I don't know if we're going to see some more defaults kind of going ahead and utilizing those TPs. All I know that I want to see is I want to see some paced gameplay here. I want to know that there are stakes on the line this late onto the playoffs. We're in the lower bracket. Things are kind of starting to heat up a little bit. That you can't do that same old, pedal to the metal kind of scenario where you push it onto a site. Preparation is here. Players are waking up a little bit, and it's that point of the season now where everybody's going to read into something to a certain degree. RG Orange, I'm sure they've been a part of scrims to a certain degree, and there are words that are being spread out and about to know how these guys like to kind of pace this thing.
Not to keep you talking for too much longer, Dallas, but I will bring up a question. Since we have you all here for such an extended period of time, and this agent select screen is, I guess, a player's loading in and taking a long time. It's called
my
an
thing's
SSD,
on a hard
folks.
drive, an external one at that, and it usually takes this long. I also missed the first two rounds, but
that is so real. Actually, I had that problem with Valorant immediately when I launched it the first time ever, and I had to switch to an SSD. But I only had a laptop, so I had to buy one for an internal. I want to ask the question for you because I obviously missed last week, Dallas. Niner Esports punching their ticket into the grand finals against Georgia Tech Whites, who obviously has now punched their way into the grand finals as well for the lower side. How did that series go down, and what really put Niner Esports ahead of the competition?
You call 13 too close?
I didn't get to watch it. This is the questions being brought.
There wasn't much to watch. It was pretty fast. So if you wanted to catch it, it's yeah.
Was it a map thing, or was it just getting outplayed?
Yeah. It was one of those weeks. I mean, Georgia Tech just didn't show up, man. I mean, we know what the team's capable of. We know what really happens. It's just a little unfortunate the kind of shoes they were put into. But Niner, we also know that they're just kind of they're a team that shows up to work. They don't show up to play. So I mean, you're going to get what you expect. But already looking at expecting things, we're expecting gunfights, right? And they're going to go ahead and move over to the likes of B-Long, look for a little more aggression already. Lazy with that aggression, not only just picking off somebody, but better yet, the spike carrier. So already a lot of information given, a little bit of a rotation, and a little bit of a give up and retreat from that B side. I'm kind of curious to see what happens, but even then more so with everybody pushing right there to the likes of B-Long, you get a player in Hookah ready to retaliate.
Jurassic waiting for the chance for that classic right-click kill, but Sarko even has a flanking position out from Hookah. Spot Surge, takes them down. Roblix will deny a second after the fact, but that's where Jurassic steps up to the plate. A one-and-done scenario, though. That's LA Tech's forte, and they need to start finding more kills in their favor without damage being done back in return. In a final 2v2 in this first round of the series, J. Crew working from elbow, clears a PC utility on site, pre-firing to make sure their information is known and test the waters elsewhere. J. Crew with two. Yes, Roblix gets there one, but you can't find the finisher, and LA Tech will take our first round.
Already get things underway here for LA Tech. Slew had to expect it to a certain degree, especially seeing after they got the first blood. I mean, it always comes down to who really finds that. Even with the equilibrium, it comes down to knowing that you have that advantage mentally, that you're going to be going ahead, initiating those fights, taking those wins, and getting those rounds onto the board. But with J. Crew starting off already with 2 on the board and that defense as well, you're sitting at half of your neural theft. Not going to be too much of an early investment like maybe the likes of a showstopper or something to make an impact in that third round to rob out some guns, but still will have an impact nonetheless here in the course of the game. Here in the SCL recently, I got to go ahead and mention this one. We got it and kind of looking at this stage. We've seen a lot of 3-0s here recently, not just in the SCL, but in collegiate in general. It almost feels like a new trend, and quite frankly, I hate it. But, I mean, you can't really have too much power over it. These teams, you see them on these round 3s, kind of expecting these guaranteed wins with the guns that they hear us, and they think, okay, well, the casters say it's guaranteed. I mean, they're just going to fold over for us like an omelet, right? No, they're still going to fight. You can see them looking for that already, especially with the aggression coming through. Surge able to go ahead and at least find one off of that force, but still, with the rest of the team forcing as well, they may look for a switch up, not only in that 3-0 fashion, but in a different direction. 1-1 could be the feasible into this round.
RG are praying that the surprise factor of forcing up in the second round and the speed at which they took that site will be enough to force LA Tech into a loss to make this go 1-1 at the very beginning of this series here on Bind. And it has worked so far. A 4 versus 3 now in a post-plant. LA Tech running out of time to get the job done. They'll brimstem up, and though Sarko does get their one, Roblix, who has been very good so far in these engagements, secures not just a single over in that elbow side, but re-engages out of that elbow and gets a second pick on top of it. RNG up above the competition, now tying things up 1-1, which is something you definitely do not see often, though we did say the same thing about 3-0 starts up until just recently.
I think, honestly, if I'm in a scenario, I love starting off 1-1 more than actual 3-0. Just knowing that you kind of went ahead, rebounded them, found yourself an early drift here, at least at force, knowing that, I mean, stakes can work. You can go ahead, sacrifice something, and still find results at the end of the day, and it's that mental confidence that you need to know that, hey, we can take these risks. We can try things and still find levels of success. And those forces, those are very, very big standing points for these initial rounds. So go ahead and take that. And it's a very big leap of faith, not only for yourself, but for your entire team to listen to IGL and say, look, I trust you. We'll go for it and we'll get it. So already with our RG Orange starting off pretty strong there, they do have a singular player being picked off fairly early on, and especially with Bubbles getting that upgrade towards the Phantom, you're expecting a round win out of them for something like this, but you never really know what could happen. Bubbles is still going to be offsite. You're looking for a lap around it. It's already being read so heavily, but quite frankly, doesn't really matter.
Surge gets really over aggressive. I'm not sure why they're trying to step through the Cypher cage, but Bubbles unfortunately not there to refrag. No information behind that, you know, obfuscating utility. And they'll have to just pray for one after the fact. Jeeton over aggresses, and it's a good punishing blow from the side there for RG Orange to clap back in a manner that gives them, you know, regaining of that man's possession. Flank though from Bubbles. They played all the way from Spices all the way back around, and a 3K will be guaranteed as only Jurassic is left and remaining, and all success that could have been there is all for naught. A 2-1 start for RG Orange in a way not necessarily expected.
Yeah, I mean, still a little bit unorthodox with how they really got to this point, but quite frankly, it doesn't matter too much how you got there. You done it, you found yourself a lead, and even better yet, you found a neural theft off the back of it, while Bubbles going to get 3K in the last round. So, I mean, good stance here for them to go ahead and get themselves on the board in that kind of manner, but even more so, how are they going to manipulate that fact? How are they going to follow things up? Because I talk about the economy, how I like to start 1-1 rather than actual 4-0 or 3-0 or whatever it may be. You're looking for this economy. Not only are you setting yourselves up, but if you go for that traditional fashion, you get those strands, players can save up. They're going to go ahead and kind of have that money in the back end, and they're not going to be really too concerned about stuff. Economy is much more worse like this because you already see that switch up and you start to accumulate a streak for yourself, and even then more, it kind of shuts down the other side because they don't get one of their own. So seeing how that can really pan out, you see that even more so they want to kind of capitalize on top of that. Find these Phantoms, get these in hand, work with what they got, but RRG Orange actually wants to chow this, knowing they still have a couple of these stingers available, or at least those kind of cheaper weapons, that they can, let's go for a closer range map, or side of the map better yet. But even then, it already seems like LA Tech has a read onto this A side, resulting in themselves in maybe 1, maybe 2 kills as an exchange comes through.
Jurassic had no right to lose that engagement, one that the team's going to be looking back on as a huge facilitator for the impossible loss for the remainder of this round. RG Orange are on a site. They get a plant down. You could have denied the information from that sky in that position in general, but you have to wait for a refrag 30 seconds after the fact from Lazy with the paint shell, and it's just all up to Lazy. Starco tries to play in from short, gets cut down very quickly, and LA Tech Blue are at a loss for what to do in this scenario and they'll take the right choice, at least in my mind, to fall back and go for the save, execute anyone that tries to go for a punishing blow afterwards, which is Surge in this stance for the side of RG Orange. But it is still going to be an inevitable loss for them, and RG Orange will now climb up to an even higher margin. And it does look like even more hunting is going on, but Lazy knows to step back towards site.
Yeah, just play around the outside of that spike. Just kind of play it close. Don't worry about overextending there too much. You got to hold on to these guns because RG Orange has started themselves an absolute rip of rounds going on. Already you can see this kind of back and forth action going to eco, the flip-flop, I like to call it. As you're done with an eco, the full buy, eco, full buy, and you got to kind of go ahead and rely on those ultimates to really set the tone here. Thankfully, though, Lazy's found themselves a couple of successful kills so far. J. Crew has a sheriff to work with as well at the back of that narrow theft. Sark was only one off of the orbital barrage. So honestly, an early aggressive play towards the 8 site here, with the catalyst of Lazy inside of that whole process, I think would be great, quite frankly. With that smoke going down, you can tell they're obviously trying to go for the ult orb. They're trying to get that orbital barrage there for that brimstone, but it's just not going to work out too well because, once again, RG Orange, they just love this A side.
There.
If it works, you don't necessarily have to fix it, right? If it's a standard setup for you, if the idea is working, if the actualization of the strategy is panning out in your favor, why the hell not? Just keep hitting the rock, keep pounding it home. You've got such an effective force behind Surge right now, who has been heating up with the quick extensions on the site. We saw that starting round 2, which really gave them that clinical edge, like I highlighted, and it has been a pretty continuous factor for them. LA Tech with limited weaponry, though, mostly sheriffs, and seemingly a stinger for Sarko. Have to get everything they can, and the aggressive player stance of 3 or no 4 inside showers nets them 2, and a 3rd with Lazy Showstopper. Those weapons are collectible, Dallas. This rotate is being forced, and now it is just Jurassic, who's got a great shot with his sheriff, like we've seen, to be able to cut down these players on B in a surprise factor.
Yeah, just wait for somebody to go ahead and swing, and already with the swing inevitably coming in, and you just don't find the shots. That is extremely unfortunate, even with the massive push that came through on the back of that. And as a result, giving the Viper a Viper's pick. But you don't care if you're Lazy. You got the paint shells. You throw that thing out, and the AoE can go ahead and clean up the job, thankfully, with that damage being done prior. So, good stance here for LA Tech Blood. You could almost call it a thrifty. Sure, you have one player that was working with a Vandal, but everybody else is sitting on sheriffs or guns that were just barely sidearms, to say the least, which it's extremely good for them, quite frankly. To get those upgrades, it's less money they have to spend the next round. It's the majority of the team who was able to go ahead and collect those as well.
Jurassic, I cannot with you right now. I was just willing to hype you up, and you put me down like that, and even cheating. A 1 and 4. And Dallas he's very irked right now.
Dude, I'm just saying, I'll go ahead and preface this. I was looking for a window, but while we got it, if anybody in that next matchup, it doesn't matter, Georgia Tech White, if anybody has a Sentinels of Light 2.0 Phantom, please equip that thing, because I need gameplay of it, because I need to know whether I'm going to buy it or not. And I'll give you all the caster buys in the world. I'll give you the greatest clips of your life.
That's true. He will. He is very willing to do that. Also, if you can get me in contact with somebody who can get me a Riot Buddy, I do not play this game, but I want to say that I have one. And Surge has one right now, so, you know, maybe he's got a contact phone. He's got a secret link that I can reach out to. Either way, we're 30 seconds into this next round, Dallas, and while there has been testing of utility over towards the shower side, LA Tech, with better weapons obviously in this round, aren't going to stack it like they did just the round prior.
Yeah, I mean, already they kind of learned their lesson towards that shower area, right? I mean, that last round, you already saw the Stinger go ahead and surmount something, and they're saying, so what can they do possibly with these Phantoms and Vandals? You don't want to test the waters too much. You want to go for that open area. You want to go for that kind of wide space real estate to work with, knowing you have all these kind of open-ended ultimates to work with. The orbital barrage for that post plant, it's going to go ahead and lock things down. Roplix, it would just go ahead and kind of guarantee one there to start things off. And knowing these Seekers are going to spread out, they're going to give you all the information you need. They're much more easily readable here on this B side because there's not as many angles to really turn. So therefore, you know when these angles are going to be kind of pursued, and these Seekers are going to give you the intel a lot quicker. So already good sense here. RG Orange be swapping things up. Flawless in the round as far as they found themselves on a 5v3 for post plant.
Folks going down, cutting off a huge amount of potential for the retake here for LA Tech. On top of that, the Tasmanian Tiger off towards J. Crew, and really the spy cam that you sent out, which is really good for gathering that information. It doesn't have the best angle to work from, and you have to pray that the Z-Pinks from your team will assist you in that process. J. Crew does manage to scrape down 1 kill the moment that smoke dissipates, but their life and Lazy's are forfeited instantaneously afterwards by the hands of Roplix, and Jurassic is not far behind. A near flawless round for RRG as they'll climb up to 4 now against the 2 that LA Tech have managed to gain for themselves, and they're looking like they're about to accumulate even more of a steady stream of these rounds in their favor, and that there's LA Tech calling a much needed, I think in my opinion, timeout.
Yeah, I always like to see these timeouts before round 5, or at least definitely before round 6, at least for one side. Go ahead and kind of cancel that equilibrium, that chance of them getting a lead, or better yet, just hitting that in the first place. You want to find that early stall, and knowing that you're still relatively close, you have enough information to work with here. These rounds aren't looking detrimental by any means necessary. They're just looking pretty darn close, and you're lacking something. And better yet, you're losing first bloods. That's all this has really come down to so far. RRG Orange, they're running that double controller just like anybody does on this map. It's a mirror comp at the end of the day. You know, as soon as Viper and Brimstone are alive in a post plant, you just got to save, or you got to have a flank through that spawn, because both of those are going to stall you for the entirety of a spike duration, and you were quite screwed if you don't even think about that spawn and knocking those players out early. So already, I think this can be a difficult task and a difficult ask for them, better yet, for whether or not they can actually accomplish that, because they're looking to kind of meet them at the line of scrimmage every single time. We don't really see players utilizing that entirety of the other side of the map to kind of explore and keep players on their edge, but that's the power of Cypher, man. You throw those trips down and quite frankly, never really worried about it. So, but better yet, that's what a TP's for. You can go at some util to at least kind of get those heads started.
Now the timeout over and done with, and hopefully LA Tech figuring out something they think will work out for them. They can start to bring that strategy to fruition in this round, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like a straight rush down in through A short. 3 players stacked up close, one a little bit further back, but with that first blood from Jeeton onto Rocklix, that gives them confidence. That gives them that little bit of oomph they need to send that pacing even further forward, and they want the weapon and they will take it. J. Crew gaining it, does need to be healed, but that's what the sky is good for, baby. This is where Lazy, come on, LA Tech, I'm sick of it. The sheriff shots have to connect eventually, and they might need to do so here. Jurassic, your best chance, and you have a sky smoke in the way, so best of luck. Wait for the team back in through hall, where Bubbles gets a freebie away from it, though hit by a seeker and finally taken down.
You didn't find any shots off the back there, but quite frankly, it doesn't even matter. What we're really talking about is how Surge didn't really get too much damage out of that showstopper, which is a little bit more awkward considering it's an AoE shot. But already, looking at the 3v3 retake, we get that even in, considering that both controllers are dead on the side of RRG Orange. You don't have to worry about that timer. You don't have to concern yourself with the kind of semantics. You just have to win these upright fights and make sure to check every single one of these angles, because, well, with Jurassic already knocking out Rishi, you know that the last one's right there towards Hookah. But it's Surge, already taking a good bit of damage. Going ahead, utilizing both the packs, go ahead and tap it, startle them out. But you don't even decide to do that. You blind yourself on the swing and give another one over to RRG Orange to get them season fit.
Oof. It is just further capitulating in their favor. LA Tech have given it every shot they possibly can. They know their weakness in the last round. A couple players get a really nice buy, but some of them need that little bit of extra assistance in the back pocket. They want to prioritize that utility and armor first and foremost. They get that kill. They pick up the weapon. An easy chance for Lazy onto who else but the last person surviving in that round for RG Orange. And LA Tech had everything at their beck and whim, Dallas, to take that round in a win. And it is unfortunately going the other way, and the attacking side continues to drive the point home. They are the better team, and they want to make it into that loser's final. That has to change for LA Tech. They get first blood in this round. The defense holds strong. Surge, who went swift up through into showers, met no competition until they exit the door and forfeit their life in the process.
Yeah, already good holds coming out here, considering you're seeing these trades. You're not seeing any equilibrium, though. LA Tech found themselves a much better start considering a lot of these rounds we've seen thus far, knowing that they have themselves only a man advantage with an orbital barrage to go ahead and not only play for a retake and maybe push that player on the back, but I was going to say for the post plant to kind of open up that space, but early investment, maybe early returns. And speaking of return, you're getting a whole lot of lead in your mouth. So a little unfortunate there for the side of LA Tech, but still something nonetheless to work with. They had the equilibrium, they had the players. This is just an awkward kind of matchup here. A duel's an initiator against an initiator and a controller. With one player already snuffed out, quite frankly, you just lost that fight possibly from that alone. But Rishi has the chance to clutch here. Already going and closing that one there towards that shower, making that trade and make it worth it. And it comes down to the last one there where the doppelganger of Jeeton differs you for at least one more to get themselves a 3.
The timing, you can see it being brought forward so many times. You can feel the stress for these players, not sure where they're going. You can see the regrowth, they know what's going on. You know, they're hitting over towards the Radiant Knight crates. They've got to stack up, but just before Lazy extends outwards, the 2 players left for RG Orange rotate to the opposite side towards the far defender side towards Heaven. Yes, your Brimstones Dumpy is sticking out, so it's a pretty easy cleanup through the crate to close the secure for that kill. But the secondary player is an unknown factor, and while you extend outwards your third utility, but you're raised, Dallas. You don't have that much to close that space. It comes purely up for the gun engagement, and the pre-fire comes through. Thankfully, Cheaton steps up to the plate, and LA Tech, despite a really solid start in that round, 2 kills to 0, and making it into a 1v1, do come away with the win and put RRG Orange at one of their only losses they've had, giving LA Tech 3.
Well, still, that 3 is all you need. Bare minimum here for LA Tech. RRG Orange, though, obviously still in the lead and looking for 6 or at least 7 to go ahead and kind of guarantee themselves that lead. But with Cheaton finding themselves initial first blood towards that B side, you know you probably locked that thing down. Raze is already relapped around. They've cleared the likes of Spices. They know that they can start pushing up now because that Cypher is dead. Look for that flank, even if better yet, look for those pings in the attacking side to let them know, hey, keep an eye out for this. We don't have Cypher anymore, and it's probably your boy Cypher's pinging that, letting them know. But Jurassic already holding things down. You know this A side is looking horrendous thus far. You kind of get to stop, but even more so, you're backing up. You're waiting for the other players in the pinch. You make sure you find this a really quick execute, which pretty nearly flawlessly, I'd say. No, and Rich only has it pulled off, but shots go through. Another one made. Cheaton gets a closure there, and in 2v1, you get the timing to close out one more.
Literally just not being in a great spot. It was really up to easy there, and you're just praying that they can do everything by themselves. And unfortunately, that's nearly impossible at the level of play we're really having here for this part of SCL. 4 rounds. You said 3 is the minimum they need. We have said that so many times, and still teams have struggled to reach that margin. But LA Tech have now managed to go above that, and RG Orange are now forced into their first ever round where they have worse weapons than LA Tech Blue. Because even in round 2, they had arguably the same weapons LA Tech had. Cheap SMGs and just running down into sight with Surge going in with a beautiful double boost pack they've highlighted in towards Hookah now twice. They've always had equal or better weapons, and this is the first time they'll be facing an LA Tech that are arguably way more powerful.
And even you can know they're already playing in these range as well. They're setting themselves up for these longer angles, not really getting too aggressive, unless you could also talk about maybe that Brimstone sitting around under Hookah. Pretty easy kill, but maybe not for a jumping player with the Sheriff in hand. But it all comes down to working slow and steady. You already know there's 2 players. You've heard both the Vandal shots. Do you want to challenge? Wow. Quite frankly, you take it if you're Bubbles, and you get at least 1. A good look thus far, but even then more so, that's going to go ahead and encourage the rest of the teammates and incentivize them to push up a little bit more because, well, there's a weapon for taking right there, and you get at least 1 Vandal. Lord knows what's happening here for the rest of the map. Hopefully resulting in somewhat of a rotation, knowing that we do see rope leaks on this A site. The TP is only a hop and a skip away. The Seekers are already in play here, and they're giving away that last player on the other side of the map, completely mitigating a possible rotation that was going to come through. Meanwhile, just kind of saying, let's just stick to our guns here and maybe wait it out if we want to do that TP late. But with 40 seconds on the clock, you got to make a decision eventually.
Guiding light goes out for Cheaton. He needed great assistance coming out from Sarko previously, and Sarko is not done with the assistance on this B side just yet. Takes down Ropelix on that rotate, and Cheaton good for the last 2. Make it 4 total in this round after the refrag, much needed for your, well, very unfortunate player taker around that corner, but it's a big round for LA Tech Blue. Not only does it equalize things out, but they didn't lose much in the process. And for a series where you've already had credit problems, you want to make sure your final 2 rounds, you always have the credits to buy. So it's always available to you. And if RG Orange lose this next one, this very well could be a 7-5 split for LA Tech. Cause once again, in an eco round for RG Orange, they'll buy whatever they can, but not sure it'll be enough if they lose this one out.
These full buy rounds have been a little more consistent for the side of RG Orange, I will say. So I think if I'm bargaining 7-5, it's it for the side of RGs, knowing just kind of how they started out this half. But still, there's a lot left on the board. And even more so, this round is really what kind of definitively puts that. Because keep in mind, RG Orange, they're in that state, as you mentioned, to where they're in an eco for the next round if they lose this one. So you could kind of say that's guaranteed. Meanwhile, LA Tech, they've accumulated a little bit more from themselves. In that last round, they were nearly flawless. A lot of players just kind of staying alive, holding on to that money, knowing they can still go ahead and purchase something. So we could see a 6-6. We could see a 7-5. I think either it's a 7-5, as you said, maybe for LA Tech, or a 6-6 across the board. But, I mean, no one already was underway. Another thing that's going to be a big factor in these next couple of rounds is going to be these ultimates. You have the Viper Smith for the post plant. You have a Neural Theft to maybe kind of sniff out the opposing sides. But quite frankly, LA Tech is a little bit off for some and very far off from others. And I think that's going to be a big difference whether RG can actually manipulate and utilize these ultimates in a round like this or lose them early. Who really knows? But already speaking of losing early, Roplex. Not early in the round. There's only 30 seconds remaining, but first blood's finally made.
Yeah, then you're the first death. It's a very early death for the rest of the team. And now it looks like you're going to be joined alongside in the afterlife. Rishi off the board for RG Orange. Elbow being held very successfully for LA Tech Blue. And that back haul, very quick execute on in towards sight is available for them. Molly goes out to clear out that corner to nice space. Tasmanian Tiger to stun Surge. You got to get out into that open space. Surge needs help, but no one is there to save them. Latro for one, Bubbles with another, but it's just Bubbles remaining, losing all the teammates there. They'll need a 4K in this round to close out and secure, and the spy cam is the only utility still remaining, bar this neural theft, which is completely useless for you at this point. They'll manage to take down Sarko. 3K guaranteed, 30 HP, more 60 for Jurassic, and the 4K is secured. RNG Orange get their 6th and avoid the worst possible conclusion of LA Tech going against another eco round for them.
A huge exchange there, knowing that already you know the tap's going to come inevitably. Just go ahead and try to meet the guy. Win the timing there. Be ready for it. As soon as he goes down, you get to work with, I mean, a player who's not even shooting back at you. And what better circumstance than that in the game of Valorant? So already, RG Orange, as I mentioned, they are these players that can feel a little bit more consistent. Sure, it took a hero play to cancel out that 2v1, but already even more so, it came because of that first blood. You can't get it up and around like this. You got a Viper's Pit. You got a Neural Theft. You got an Orbital Barrage. This double controller level ability that I talk about earlier in these rounds needs to come true here for RG Orange once again and team themselves a 7th, because not only because of that utility, just because of those ultimates alone, just buying out that time. Don't even worry about first bloods. If you can find that site, get into a post plant, you kind of guaranteed yourself the round purely because that Cypher's set up on your flank, and you just got to look for it.
The slow play up for RG Orange. Note how slow and patient they played in the previous round of the early engagement. Talked about it, 40 seconds left in the round. It was the first death, a very unlucky death for Roplex as well. They should have had Jeeton dead to rights for LA Tech. And they're doing another thing here fairly slow. 58 seconds. The orbital strike does go out to secure space in through B long, and Octagon is theirs for the taking. The assistance of that toxic screen coming out from LA Tech. Lazy sends out a paint shell, and yes, they do manage to get a kill, but the showstopper from Surge gets another, and Lazy scrapes by to get one more with a rifle after the fact, equalizing things to a 3-on-3. Roplex watching the flank. Sarko prowling around the corner. They have the chance. Roplex, another 1v1 in Hookah, and the spike may be down, but it is a player disadvantage for the attacking side. Telaturo scrapes one down. Bubbles with another. J-Crew lines them up, but can't take both down. It's RG Orange 7-5 at halftime.
Let's get one more here on the board, having themselves an advantage, especially after those pistol rounds we saw coming out. We'd expect it to a certain degree. They've had the force, and ever since then, they definitely have the confidence to wield it. So, all things considered, I mean, they've been great in this game of what we've seen thus far. They found themselves so much results. Better yet, Bubbles has been an outstanding player on the attacking side. Better yet, Roplex has found some good exchanges here. I mean, Lichero has done a great job in the assists, and even more so, LA Tech has just done what they've done. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's only a 2-round deficit. You can't sleep on these guys just yet, but now that they're on the attacking side, we get to see Lazy's prowess as that kind of entire duelist scenario. Surge on that attacking side, only resulting in 6 and 10. You're not really expecting that from your Rays. You're winning these trades. You're winning these initial kills. You're wanting it to at least have a neutral stance out of your duels at the end of the day. And when they're lacking a little bit, you know you can have a little bit more, which is outstanding considering they're still in the lead with that result.
Beaten in the pistol round. We've seen what they could do in the first half. They need to get this lead back in their favor. And a pistol round win is a solid way to get your best chance to do so, unless you follow the formula of that first half and it goes the opposite way instead. Sarko standing up from the ult pip did get it. Also gets Surge. That's 2 to your favor. Something you weren't necessarily anticipating with that short-lived success on that side. TP is taken, and now A site is yours for the taking. You can just remove these 2 players fortified up on site. Bubbles and Hookah. Roplex in the back of sight. A 1-for-1 trade goes on as you left your lingering player Jeeton back over towards the B side, but it is falling apart. Bubbles was never cleared from U-Haul. The information they gained with the spy cam is paramount to the success and dismantling of this LA Tech host plants. It is easily ROG Orange past that point. J-Crew with just 1 and done immediately afterwards.
Another round, especially going ahead for RG Orange in these early three. It's not the 1-2 start we're expecting just yet, but we still got 2 of those rounds to go, so we could see that like little turnaround if we do see LA Tech looking to opt for it. But I think they have a little more respect for that. They may go for a sheriff fight here and there, but they're not going to go for a full stinger because they want to make sure to have those guns in that next round with how critical these full buys feel. When they're in ecos, things just don't look all that great, especially on the attacking side. You're not able to go ahead and kind of really throw them off. You're not able to get aggressive on that defense and hold these close angles with these stingers. You need to kind of push out. So already, once again, at 3-1 kind of stance, seeing how RRG Orange has played things, you'll be able to get the kind of the reads of the arsenals are working against. I mean, it's just kind of really good to a T where you got to expect they win themselves one more.
Seemingly a slower player from LA Tech Blue. They know they're at a disadvantage. So Dallas, what do? Well, you crawl. You get on your hands and knees. You go as slow as you possibly can, and you make no noise as best as you can, and pray that you can get 2 players in a 1v2 confrontation in your team's favor. And that seems very difficult to do. Honestly, I'll say it here, Dallas. I don't know if this is the biggest highlight you can possibly make, but the Cypher has been so successful for both sides. But RRG Orange, Bubbles has been able to do it on all levels of play, kills in utility and information all across. And RG Orange are using that to ride the way further to victory. And that's why we're seeing the scoreline go so far their way. LA Tech dash out of the hookah side. All 3 that went that way are down. And it may just be flawless as it's just harassing with a classic remaining. And that will be the case. RG Orange are 1 away from double digits.
Big sense for them, especially in the kind of manner they won that round. Obviously, flawless on the board, especially considering even then on that second round, they swapped things up, and now they're doubling down, and they're winning these in the right fashions. With so many Bulldogs being carried over as well, I mean, you have legit rifles here in a round like this. Just comes out to having the ADS or just kind of making sure you can have those right angles that kind of play for those first bullet advantages to make it feel like any other gunfight in the game. But all things considered, LA Tech, I mentioned their speed, I mentioned their prowess. They have to kind of get it on the board now because they're 2 controllers, the players that you had to kind of rely on at this attacking side, haven't been the most impactful in terms of the kills, haven't been able to actually set up these walls, set up these kind of, you know, obscure lines of sight, and then kind of execute off of them. They're kind of getting beat in their own game to a certain degree, knowing that any corner that Cypher can be, you're scared to push these sites. You're scared to push off these smokes, knowing that a sentinel who's just around there waiting for you to push the site is going to be just kind of lurking about and finding one of the easiest picks on you because he's just feeling it today.
It's an unbelievable performance, and that's been something that RG Orange started off exceptionally so with. LA Tech were just on the wrong foot, to be brutally honest. You step into the second, they get a second wind, but past that, it has been silenced, and LA Tech are back in that kind of uncomfortable state. Hopefully that will change now with proper weapons in their hand. They did lose an early fight that necessarily wasn't required of them. Not clearing the corners does suck, but everyone else steps up to the plates, gets their refrags, gets their ones, and RG Orange, as expected in this round, with the much worse weapons saving in from their bonus afterwards, are in a very uncomfortable 2 versus 4. Information gathered with that Tasmanian Tiger. Heaven is cut off with a sky smoke, but soon that will dissipate, and Rishi can use that as a point of emphasis to clear out these players on site, though only one is close, and they're hiding just below the exit out from Heaven. And it is a very dangerous player of Sarko, though they do wait for the right time, and they do get their one. Jeeton gets the clap back where needed, and Lacey is on the prowl and will secure the much-needed kill to give LA Tech the guarantee.
Place 3 going on to the next, so a good chance to know they're holding on to the majority of those guns, but even then still, you got 3 rounds separating you and your opposition. They're only 1 off from the double-digit choke point, check hole kind of situation. And that damn switch-up you do all the time, I just did it, and I swear to God, we got to practice that because you're not rubbing that off on me anymore. But, I mean, already knowing that we have these guns, that we have these full buy rounds across the board, and seeing these kinds of now gunfights pan out to look a little more concise, I'd say, a little more precision, knowing that already you're seeing these pinches come through, you're seeing these executions being made, you're seeing players work off each other, rather than just kind of having these isolated gunfights. It's a good stance for LA Tech, but it comes down to the approach. The A main area, keep in mind, you had J. Crew behind. He was waiting on him to die. He was waiting on Jurassic to go in with no real backup because everyone is allocated for that showers. Showers work, but A main sure as heck didn't, if you ask me, if J. Crew didn't find a hero player to go ahead and find too. So it's these scenarios where you're looking good when you work together, but we're just not seeing too much of that just yet. And maybe with the kind of space that's between this hookah and this octagon entry aren't really all that far away, it can at least feel like that.
Two players in Octagon. Roplix, although in elbow Dallas, they do get away with one before falling back a little bit further, waiting for that Sky Smoke to dissipate and waiting for their second opportunity to cut down another player on the side of LA Tech Blue. Out goes Rishi, gets the guiding light, but can't aim for crap. And they lose their life in the process because of it. LA Tech on the attack have failed, but RG Orange aren't doing much better. A 2v1 is very reclaimable for a player at the caliber of Sarko, and it's just a matter of time before they start to trickle in and possibly feed that beast. And with an orbital strike, Alice, I think this is absolutely a round where you can test the limitations of this ultimate and use that as a way to get into an open space and maybe just clear away sightlines, because it does cut down views and you are out of smokes. The Bubbles has a great line of sight, and it just was not anticipated.
Yeah, the top frag for the opposing side, I mean, going to be waiting eventually somewhere, just knowing that head's going to line up. And once again, he's already heated up more than enough for this game thus far. So knowing you have that to kind of work off the back of another round, give it over to RRG Orange. I talk about that checkpoint chokehold kind of scenario where you're getting held down. You're getting to the point where this is where a lot of teams have to choke up. But even more so, it kind of comes from the result of that 9-3 where that comeback starts to surmount. With the kind of awkward round sets we've seen in this game so far, you can't really hold that to RG too much. They have the guns to work with. They have at least one ultimate to work off of, and that's going to get counteracted to what we said at LA Tech. They have two, but one of them's a neural theft. Orbital Barrage is really the only thing that can actually set something up, because that information is great, don't get me wrong, but it's just not as impactful as actually forcing players off, making them go somewhere.
There's Bubbles, patented spy cam. They've left up so many of these rounds over towards Showers. They left it be, or sorry, over towards Hookah and U-Haul. I'm saying every wrong thing. U-Haul, Lamp, whatever you wanted to call it back in the day in the beta. Ridiculous. They've had it there for the last few rounds, and it has been very good for closing off LA Tech's very aggressive stances in through shorts. We saw a very bad fight for Jeton previously. Same thing with J. Crew. RG are just letting LA Tech trickle in, and they're using the information very actively to try and cut them down on that approach. Bubbles back on the cam, gets one before doing so. Everyone, though, for RG Orange is coming up with kills, and it is just J. Crew doing a little dance, having a good time over towards Showers, while the rest of the team is most definitely not having a good time here. It's a flawless result for RG Orange.
I mean, gotta give credit where it's due, at least trying for that, but that was lambs to the slaughter. Just seeing all those players funnel out of Showers, you saw the early fights go underway. You already knew they were kind of pushing up for that area of the map, and I mean, they just didn't really rotate. They didn't stretch themselves too much. And I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do for these next couple rounds. You know, they've been hitting this A side a lot. They've got themselves some good relative success of actually getting that spike and finding that real estate on the B side. The A side's been a little bit questionable. They found their first couple. They're one round on that site, keep in mind. So maybe they're kind of looking for that comfort zone of saying, look, it's going to be the side of the map that really kind of finds their success. Well, if you find all these ultimate things invested and you still don't win this round, quite frankly, I feel like you got to switch it.
Yeah, strategies have to start to change up in the slightest, right? There is some diversity that can be gathered in that book, and you just got to find the right time to do so. And I think that would have been about 3 or 4 rounds ago. It is working so far in this round. And the slight change, it's just a little bit more aggressive on the utility expenditure in towards site. They get the plant down, but they did lose only one of the process till Rishi. I don't know how this is a death for Bubbles. Thank goodness. Finally goes down over towards you all. It's still a tough time for LA Tech. They get one, but then they lose one. They get 2, but then they lose 2. And now it's RRG Orange on an even man advantage. Yes, there is a molly in from the backside flank towards short. The Roplix has to flick and can't. Sarko will save LA Tech for a couple rounds more, denying RRG Orange match point.
2 controllers alive. You're just not getting out of there. Plain and simple. Yeah. I mean, you saw the incendiary start, you saw the bubble being put down, and even then just kind of saying, this will be good for a couple seconds, and you got the rest of the spike, because there's no way they're doing half off the back of that. So, already looking at 11, though, for RG Orange. They've already crossed that threshold. They have 4 ultimates. They haven't really been stressed this half too much. Accumulating that 4-2 kind of scenario, that matchup, we saw that same exact scoreline, keep in mind, for that first half. That's when the timeout was called by LA Tech, was when it was 2-4 in that first half. And they haven't really done the same thing yet. You do have 2 timeouts to a game, at least I believe. I haven't read our rules because it's not my job. But I mean, most you do kind of have 1 for each half. And this would be that same exact point where they're usually liking to invest it, but they're not opting for it this time. Instead, they just like to go ahead and run on the site, see what they can accomplish. Quite frankly, it will look like it'll result to near nothing until some kills come out. When some ultimates available, some overextensions give you a miracle.
Yeah, and as soon as LA Tech punish for an overextension, they overextend. It feels like it's kind of the cyclical machine here, Dallas. It's really unfortunate to watch. Finally, we see LA Tech 3 kills go against them, nearly a 4th. They get 3 back in return, and it was all for naught as RG Orange will close out and secure. Bubbles, who was having a spectacular series right at the very beginning. At one point, I think they were like 17-6. Has been a little bit slower since then on the defense, but I mentioned it before. The utility with the spy cam, their overall placement, knowing and calling out that information, which is so key as this utility player on that Cypher. I think they are by far the most impactful player in this series, in this game, this best of 1. And it's very sad for it to only be a best of 1. But if they win, which is looking like they will, they're going to be moving on into another game. We'll get to at least see them again.
Well, early starts here. Game could be on a wrap, or a game can keep on going. And with a good start here to knock out that Viper and that Viper's pit, better yet, hey, that's what you want. You need more scenarios like that. You need early starts, you need early kills, especially to keep this game alive. Because you got 5 rounds of a deficit to overcome just to guarantee yourself nothing but overtime. You still got to keep playing. There is no outright winning at this point. So already for LA Tech to find themselves some early aggression towards the B side, and it's a lurking player. No real rotations have resulted just yet. They found themselves on a half rotate, so many players sitting back in spawn, but that's just because they're cautious. They're waiting. They're looking to see when they can work together for this retake because they have so many ultimates. They know they get the space. Better yet, they have really the guns. Necessarily lazy. They only had that stinger, but the rest of them have a little bit more of a purchase coming through. But they're losing a little bit more in the process. It comes down to finding these kills. If they go ahead and result 1 looking for an exchange. Jaden with the wombo combo and still has another gun, but better yet has 2 more players to back them up in this 2v1 scenario to keep this game going. One of them is a controller, incendiary, just going ahead covering that spot. You're not going to touch that Joker, because if you do, and when you do, we're going to pinch, we're going to swing, but not only at the same time, 1 by 1 maybe. What?
What in the world there for LA Tech? I know time was always pretty much going to be the ultimate decider there, and they knew that, but if you know that time's going to be the winner for you, why are you swinging it?
I'm okay with swinging it, but swing it together.
Yeah.
My God, what?
At the very least, then you can save your teammate and save the weapon when that's already been a problem for LA Tech. Look at this round. Yes, RG Orange are coming into this one with an eco, which is a good spot for LA Tech to be in, but they're not doing necessarily fabulous. 3 players of soft armors, and if you're RG Orange with sheriffs, yeah, 1 shot to the head will do it anyways, but needing 1 less shot with the sheriff to the body, especially when you're team shooting and with a rush down over towards that fountain side on B long, you really hope they got soft armor. It's just unlucky. They gambled and guessed on the wrong side and they lost.
Stinger already dropped. Another player possibly dropping in the process. J Crew to go ahead and give that Vandal a little bit of leeway into the hands of an opposing player in the back of the map. RG, they had themselves a showstopper, but with that Raid's already losing so much HP, you don't want to get shot in the midair. You don't want to really burn that ultimate, so you're probably going to save it for the next round. Maybe find yourself a free pick, but you're also getting free ultimates as well in the process. 1 more to go ahead and fall. Surge to go ahead and find 1 more. Good exchanges here in a 2v2. Surprisingly enough here for RG Orange, as they find themselves losing just 1 more. Another scenario where you have an initiator and a duelist. They're going to play a little more aggressive. They actually will play for the pinch there, considering that, well, they kind of have to swing. It's in their entire just identity of a player, but even more so in a round like this for RG Orange, you got to look for those rounds to make them expensive, because keep in mind, still, LA Tech, that's 4 weapons they got to buy, or better yet, 3 in a round like this, and knowing they have the ultimates, they're going to look to just kind of win this round comfortably so they can get themselves an easy 11th in the next one.
I mean, you're on serious point now, and you've been gatekept here for 2 rounds. You know what LA Tech are bringing. You can tell it's not necessarily the best of the best, and if their eco is not 100%, punish. 4 kills, 3 kills. Now heading into the next. How many don't have armor? How many are rocking half? How many are going to play a lot slower in this round where they need to use that utility to burn very fast like they did 2 rounds prior to get success on this A site? You got to be very careful about playing up so close. You have to deal with the brimstone damage that was dealt. You have to worry about Bubbles over towards Bench, who's also taking a huge lick of damage. But LA Tech have also done the same thing. And 5 ultimates, dude. That is ridiculous. Pop them here. There's the Seekers.
Going ahead and popping that towards the A site. Looking to get that information possibly. see where these players are allocating themselves. And when all three go towards the A side of the map, you have a definitive numbers advantage on that B side. Comes down to what kind of utility are you working with. The A side's been pretty popular for your team, so more than likely they're going to allocate the Cypher over there. So they've made a switch up. Put the guy on that site, go ahead, counteract these players, get aggressive with it over there on towards this B side, and even more so, we talk about Showstopper, investing, saving, do whatever you're going to do, but at least being smart about it. And now RG Orange just probably used their last ultimate for the game. Meanwhile, ALA Tech have at least 4 more.
They've been patting their pockets for these ultimates, Dallas. Unfortunately, they can't be used if you die. So they need to be very proactive with these in the next few rounds. You do see the neural theft, something that I feel like has been very absent so far in this series, despite both the chambers doing fairly well, especially when it comes down for RG Orange. But Bubbles will have to get this kill and unfortunately cannot. Laturo able to find one of their own, but a player in hookah and a player in tube, you're really just pinched. It is a forfeited chance for RG Orange. And LA Tech, they get to double digits, which is where RG Orange has now faced most of their difficulties, and they feel it necessary for a timeout, which I think is the right call here.
Makes total sense. These last 3 rounds haven't been the hottest. And better yet, as I mentioned, they're on their last leg for these ultimates here. This neural theft may be the last thing you get to work with in this game. And they only used information out of LA Tech in that last round. You invested the Showstopper. That's insane. Meanwhile, LA Tech just kind of played their game and just worked off intel. That's literally it. One of them didn't even find results. It just kind of told you, hey, 3 are on A, and that's all you really get. And it was still enough to find a round success and make the call for the PE push. So RG Orange, they got to really just put everything into this timeout. Figure out what's going on. LA Tech can't really figure out too much, but quite frankly, it feels like a double-edged sword because you're on the league calling timeouts. You're really giving LA Tech more time to really figure stuff out. You can already see the pings coming out for them here from the side of RG Orange. They want to make sure to have a definitive A-hole. They know how important this thing can be. They know how popular this side is with LA Tech Blue, and they only move towards that B side when it really feels forced. But after the recent successes, their canvas looks a lot more broad. It looks like they can hit a lot more diverse sites now because, they were locked down earlier, but now, after this comeback starting to surmount here, you never really know where they're going to go next.
Broad strokes create a better scene, and finite brushes do better for detail. And LA Tech, they've made plenty of mistakes here, Dallas, but a lot like, the Afro Love and Bob, you got to pray that you can turn those into happy little accidents and they turn into something beautiful of their own regard. And LA Tech have made mistakes. We've seen the attack get early losses towards U-Haul, struggling to get control of that space. We've seen them rush out towards Hookah and lose 2 players when they didn't necessarily need to do so yet, but they still managed to turn those around and turn the foot back on RG Orange in this defense, which has been very much so struggling. Judge, though, for Oplix. This is your prayer and opportunity. And it does work out with Surge's assistance, a paint shell kill, and the only person who cannot heal for the side of LA Tech Blue, Jeeton, is the only person to have taken damage at this point. They've got 1 HP, and they unfortunately will have to stay with it as the team rotates over to B.
And even then, who's waiting? Well, no other than Bubbles. Already waiting with all these trips, all these cameras, everything set up, setting every single distraction to play here. And with an arrow that to work with as well. You're not really concerned about that too much. But now with these ultimates to work off of, with this close quarters, and better yet, with Jeeton sitting on literally 1 HP, there's a lot of concerns here from this squad. A spray down could do more than enough to shut this guy down. And already you find 1, and you got some damage off the back of it as well. So these 2 players alive right now, quite frankly, this is extremely doable and probably your best shot here for this entire game.
Yeah, Roplix, who's already a huge chance early. Those judge shots out and Cubby towards short. Will have to step into the Viper's pit. The burn will be very annoying. The Molly to close out a space. And J-Crew, how do they lose that 1v1? So Churro opening it up. Sky Smoke to go. Rifle collected. Jurassic will go for this kill. The spray, but it will not matter. Laturo will stick, Roplix will cover, and a 13-10 scoreline will be your match in series ending score with RG Orange taking out LA Tech Blue. And what a story they've had up to this point in Dallas.
Yep.
UGA Red victory. They take a loss to Niner Esports, which now punch their ticket into the finals. They went out against UKY Blue down in lowers after that loss. Clemson Orange, Florida Orange. They've gone through the ringer here. And unfortunately, they've now faced their loss in the semifinals. And this team they've lost to could also be making it to the grand finals, meaning their only losses are to grand final teams. But that will have to be left for more. We'll have to see if they can take the win against Georgia Tech White in the next game of the day.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, seeing how this team worked, I mean, obviously Georgia Tech on the side, they've been watching this probably a little bit. I'd expect knowing them, I mean, just kind of seeing who the big threat is today. Now, obviously, it's looking like a bubbles kind of day. Guys showed up, and even then, when you talk about LA Tech and how well they kind of play onto a site and how aggressive they can get, we have a singular cipher who's now buffed to go ahead and stop every single one of them and have all these consistent 3-4Ks. It feels like the man's just clutching up. If you don't kill him pretty early on, you're not going to look at too much success for the round, and especially on something like Bayern, where you're kind of forced to run right through his utility. So I mean, these maps, man, that's really what it comes down to. I'm excited to see what Georgia Tech wants to whoop out because, I mean, looking at the cipher, you got to make sure he's kind of weak. And I think, honestly, the more sites you have, the less opportunities you have to really run into him. So I'm expecting maybe a Haven or a Lotus kind of here soon. And man, if I get a Lotus, I'll be loving it.
Yeah, and Georgia Tech Wyatt, they want a rematch. They want to be able to face off. They want the grand finals against Niner Esports.
Yeah.
And they've deserved their way to this point, but they're not out of the woodwork just yet. But they do have that luxury of getting to see this match beforehand. But it kind of goes the same way. RG Orange get the luxury of being very warmed up and having that experience behind them and in their belts to work forward toward it. We have an interview coming up after this. We're going to take a break between that, technically between game one and that and the start of game two. So don't go anywhere. You'll see your favorite team come up on the chopping block. We'll have a couple questions, and then you'll have the next game immediately after that.
Take me to the ocean blue. Take me to the ocean blue. Don't wait for it, 'cause every other time you did, you let it slip right through your fingertips. And I know, 'cause I've been there before, and it shows right down to my core. It's there for the taking. Hold my breath, tremble and shaking. No fear left, 'cause I've been high, a hundred times, and all I find is crucified. 'Cause I've been
for the taking. Hold my breath, tremble and shaking. No fear left, 'cause I've been high 100 times, and
I talked about it, Dallas. I mentioned it. It was going to be the battle for the Cypher, and it wasn't J. Crew. It was Bubbles who stepped up to the plate. An insane performance, top frags throughout majority of the game, closes out exceptionally well. And man, even our observer and producer talking about the utility placement over there towards U-Haul. It seems impossible to go up against, and it really felt that way for the opposing side. It was just too impossible to come in. Thank you very much, Bubbles, for joining us here in the booth. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, you guys have a game you're ready to get into, so I'm sure we're going to try to keep this fairly quick. In the series you just had, it was fairly difficult up to the final moments, but you started to get panics at least a little bit when it went from, a 12-6 to all of a sudden being 12-10.
Yeah, a little bit nervous, but we only practiced 1 day a week, so we kind of expected it to be close. So I'm glad we could close it out.
Yeah, especially with the entire run that you guys have had so far. I mean, especially knowing that your next opponent could be Georgia Tech, who after last week didn't have the best stance considering their entire series. We're not going to talk about what happened there, but is that a little bit of an installation of maybe confidence for you guys coming into this week, hoping that they kind of have that same stance of obviously they're not going to get much rounds? That's what you're thinking more than likely, but are you excited to just kind of play them and hoping they kind of fumble in that same regard? Or are you hoping it's pretty close so you can kind of get yourself ready for the next one?
I mean, I do hope we dominate, but most of our games have ended up being close, against teams that we should have beat. So it'll probably be close, but we'll probably win anyways.
Confidence. I'll point out Dallas touched on, Georgia Tech White and their, a game that shall not be mentioned. A lot of their games have kind of gone that way, right? I mean, they're 7-4 to this point. They lost to Niner Esports, obviously, right? That was their big loss that way everyone can remember. They may have a bit of imposter syndrome getting that point afterwards, something that could weigh on their mindset, but they lost against Charger Blue, Florida Orange. I mean, they did eventually take back the win against Florida Orange, I believe, and they took down KYU, up to the point to get on that stage, to get into that, berth for semifinal and grand final. But they've lost to very weak teams that did not last long or even make it into playoffs, I should say. So are you concerned at all about Georgia Tech White? Do you think that they maybe, I won't say didn't deserve to make it here, but they got lucky on their berth? They took good wins and, they're not a team you're too concerned about?
Yeah, I definitely don't think we should be concerned about them. We'll probably just go in there, hopefully 13-0. We do troll a little bit sometimes just because we don't practice that much, but I do think it should be relatively easy.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're out of questions for you. Won't hold you any longer. You guys have a map ban to get through and a game to play that you're trying to 13-0 on top of it. So we'll send you out of the booth. Thank you very much, Bubbles, for joining us, and best of luck. I just punched my microphone. Sorry for that. Best of luck in your next series of the day against Georgia Tech White, which you think will be a 13-0 victory.
All right. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Dallas, when you have interviews, you like to see confident players, but the level of confidence Bubbles is bringing to the table, I think that's next level. 13-0, how much do you think that's possible?
Dude, like, if Niners can do 13-2, like, that's basically compare yourself to Niners. That's wild. I mean, I think it can be done. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's always a chance, but I think what we really got to see is obviously players step up. We got to see not only Bubbles kind of replicate what we saw in that last game, but we got to see it now kind of out of everybody, quite frankly. We got to see those kind of step ups, knowing that Georgia Tech, you got to show some kind of intimidation factor leading into next week. You got to make sure that they're ready for that they look good for it, because if they just don't all step up to the plate, Niners is watching this game right now, quite frankly. And if they're not sweating, if they're just laughing at what's going on in front of them, they're not going to be concerned about what's going to be happening, in the coming weeks when the grand finals roll around. So this is your last impression that you're making, quite frankly, before everything really matters and you're getting into a best of three. So this is the most important moment, if you ask me. This is your best of three already, starting things off. You got to win in a 2-0 fashion.
Now, Dallas, I know you don't really pay attention to the rule book, but I think playoffs and the victory in general for SEL this season, it has implications for the LAN event coming in next semester, right? I believe so, right?
Yeah.
You get your ticket to go in immediately with that victory.
Yep.
So it's important you get these wins, and you're coming into this with one practice a week. What is going on here? I mean, you're having to face off against a team that made it into the finals, right? They were one step away from the grand finals. And yeah, I pointed out they've had some questionable losses. It's something you maybe want to, try to forget about if you're that team, if you're Georgia Tech. But at the same time, if you're less concerned about them, you're really concerned about Niner Esports.
No.
Do you bring out everything in this game? You think you can beat them? You're confident enough for a 13-0. You pull out everything? You don't hide strats? You don't save anything at all?
I mean, we talk about strats. So let me let y'all in with a production streak here. Nobody cares. It's not that deep. It's hit your shots, man. You got some setups, but it's not like you're going through the book. We're not all Potter. We're not all doing that because Potter, good God, she's like Harry Potter. Just the magic she pulls out whenever it matters. But still, all things considered, though, it's not that deep. I mean, I think honestly, you play your best game as you can. Last week, I mean, we saw Georgia Tech. We can't really mention that too much because that's against Niners. This is against RRG. In Georgia Tech, I think they're going to do that same thing. They're going to play like they have nothing left to lose just because they have to get back to that point. And Niners have been seen their worst, but now they have a chance to see their best and really see the full-fledged out team that Georgia Tech is. And quite frankly, they got to be ready for it.
Yeah, consistency is key. You had a good victory, though a little bit closer than you necessarily would have wanted. They said Bubbles answer, get a little stress, got a little more close than they would have liked. But if you're confident enough for this one, if you can win 13-0, how many strats can you bring out in 13 rounds? 13, right? Like you probably have double that, triple that you're hiding in a back book somewhere, right? You need something for every round, for every map. So we'll have to see how it goes out. But like we mentioned, the implications for this game are huge. This determines the grand finals.
Yep.
This determines who face off against Niner Esports. And Niner Esports is undeniably the best team right now in SEL. They punched their ticket first, well deservedly so, and they went so darn flawless. They are so darn good, and every time we've seen them, they've been the scariest team on the board. And we almost saw LA Tech really hunt for it. They wanted that rematch. We got to see them face off against each other on a questionable map pick for them, where then they went immediately back into it in their first game down to the lower bracket, which we saw back-to-back from them. Kind of hard not to root for them a little bit when you see them so darn often, Dallas,
yeah.
But they didn't get the chance to do so. They're shut out. And so now they're really hoping, if you're an LA Tech fan, you're really hoping that RG manages to go all the way into grand finals so that your only losses are against grand final teams.
Yeah, I think honestly, the way this kind of goes is knowing the next map that's going to matter a lot. But when it comes to the Niners, I already kind of indicated it and kind of hinted at it a little bit during that buying game. Niner Esports, they don't come to play. They come to work. Like the way they hold themselves, not only just as a team, but as an organization, as a school in general, their entire program, you can tell the kind of work they're putting in. They clock in, they do their job, and then they go home, I think. That's what championship level teams do. You have these kind of come up stories every now and again, the team that has more fun, the team that has more personality, the team that, has these entire egos to them. How VCT painted EG basically being like the villains. But it's like, but they were just, a lot of the guys were having fun. They just kind of clock in, they do what they got to do, and they just make the best of scenario considering that they were the worst seeded team for the entire season up until playoffs. So knowing that exact same scenario here, that it's not the same thing for Georgia Tech. Niners, they are your top dogs. They are your C9s. They are your Fanatics. They are your DRX. Here are the SEL. They are these top guys. They're going to consistently show up. They're going to not just kind of hold themselves a top seed inside the group stage. They're going to find a flawless run the LCQ by a pretty large margin. They're going to go through the entirety of the upper bracket when it gets around to get into this point. And obviously, we're going to go into more depth when it actually gets around to that grand finals because they're already sitting in that spot. But the teams that are going to be meeting them there, that's really the whole thing. This feels like the Hunger Games right now. You're just living for the entertainment of those above you, just knowing that you got to kind of match them and face them eventually. And you got to be prepared for that.
You just like, is that a reference because the new Hunger Games movie comes out this weekend?
No, I'm not going to watch it. It looks terrible, quite frankly. I haven't read I haven't read a Hunger book game in ages, but yeah, a book in general. Like I'm in
average
school
college
now.
student. Yeah,
I don't
average
even know
college student.
textbooks. We know how it is.
I didn't even buy my textbooks.
I did
in
not.
college.
That's too much money.
I would get told, hey, you need this textbook. We never opened it a single
Never
time.
did.
And I learned it my freshman year. Didn't buy a single one
Oh,
past
shit.
that. Some classes do, but 99%.
Maybe core classes. I don't know. Y'all can let us know in the chat.
My core classes I took freshman year didn't either.
Then
Also,
say
you
core
could find
classes
them
wouldn't know.
elsewhere.
I just
yeah.
think they give out little math worksheets still, like they say back in high school, middle school, and whatnot. But I know it's on
knows?
computers now. Y'all had that terrible software where it's like if you put a space in between the comma for like an answer, it counts
It's
as
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
And
99.25, but you
Nah.
put 99.25 space, and so it's incorrect then. You do it on your phone and it auto corrects the sentence, so it puts a space or a period afterwards, and it's immediately wrong.
I think AI is just great for school. Call me wrong. I'm here. I'm
Dallas
for
is
the
now
people.
surviving through
I'm for the
ChatGPT,
people.
folks. This is his confirmation.
I haven't done school in ages. I'm in grad school. I just write papers. That's it. So
I mean, so what he's saying here is he's using ChatGPT. To be fair, I mean, AI is going to take our jobs here soon, Dallas. You not see those Twitter posts of all the new revolution of AI talking over like League of Legends plays, and it's the most soulless thing you'll ever listen to in your life.
I'm not gonna say anything because that requires us talking about League of Legends, and so help me God, port and pitchforks will be at our throats. I have been in a call with nothing but League of Legends casters and producers and observers and talk bad about League of Legends, and they treat it like a religion. So we're not gonna go there. I'm just gonna say, yeah, League of Legends is kind of slow, so it makes it easy to kind of do casting over. Throw a fighting game in there. Oh, that thing is glitching out 10 times out of 10. It's gonna suffer an aneurysm.
Oh yeah, it's like when is an AI gonna be able to say wombo combo? Like what is that
Yeah,
happening?
you're not gonna get this point. You're not gonna get conversations like these. They're gonna talk about the weather or something like we're
Yeah.
like we're
It's
45.
gonna
with
turn
three
into
kids.
a literal podcast instead. Do you what is that battle royale game that went into an early access for a bit there, and I completely forgot to play it. But it has like heavy class, engineer class, something like that.
Are you talking about the finals?
Yes, that's it. That's it.
It's not a battle royale,
Is
but
it not? It's similar.
no.
It's just basically
It's kind of like Battlefield combined with like a game show combined with, as you mentioned, Battle Royale to a certain extent, but it's not like Last Man Standing. It's like a TDM kind of objective based thing. Stoked as heck for that, by the way. If y'all want to see finals as a competitive thing, let us know. I was loving that Joker when my audio was working because DRX12 is not compatible with for surround sound for whatever reason, and you can't change the sound settings.
Yeah, so the only thing with it is it's all AI too. Like the announcing is all AI. It actually was actually not bad from the things I was listening.
Good. I didn't even know until I saw a video and they were complaining about it, and I was like, wow, like
if you try to run a tournament with that, then I think it's gonna go poorly, right? But if you if you're as an announcer in game,
probably gonna disable that for something like competitive, or still be there just to kind of show things up because you want that ambiance there regardless.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Like you have an infinitely larger repertoire of things that can be said in the moment comparatively to preset recorded 200 lines from a voice actor. Sucks voice actor loses work, but at the same time, it's a cool user experience. Just don't make it for every game. That's absolutely ridiculous. It does not need to be in every game. If I play Baldur's Gate 4 in 25 years and it's all AI voices, I am going to have a conniption. I am going to lock myself in a cabin in the woods and sob for 20 more years after the fact. That is not okay. Either way, poor chances aside for Baldur's Gate 4, which will probably never happen in my lifetime. Ascent is our deciding map for the day. Interesting bans. I mean, Lotus being the first one was not shocking, but Sunset making it all the way and Split making it all the way is interesting.
I literally said you would need a 3-site map to kind of just because Cypher just looks so strong. Cypher's going to be thrown in there regardless. And I think on Ascent, you're going to have to switch over the KJ. So, I mean, if your best option is not to go on a map where Cypher's played, make the guy switch up and go into a different character. But I think, quite frankly, Ascent, you never really know. We talk about this map over and over again. You say it's where good teams go to die. I say it's a good litmus test, and it's a home field advantage for everybody. And it's either one or the other, quite frankly. We never really see huge stomps out of the definitively ahead team on a map like this. So I think it's good. It's poetic considering that for 90% of the season we've seen this map. But I don't know, man. I'm a little bit bored, but it is what it is. I think, honestly, if somebody breaks at ISO, that'll spice things up.
Do we allow ISO? Do we allow ISO? We don't know the rules. We didn't mention that last map. We don't know the rules.
Just play them, and we're not going to.
As a caster, I'm not going to say anything against you.
Yeah, I would actually advocate for you. I'd say,
but Jacob and Fred and everyone else in between may. So don't take our words as the scripture. We just really want to see ISO. I really want to see somebody get sent into the Shadow Realm for a 1v1. I am begging for it. Even though I just don't think it's going to be that viable.
It's not Shadow Realm. It's a domain expansion, dude. Catch up on your JJK.
Sorry. I haven't watched the newer episodes. Okay. I don't know. I've only read the entire manga.
That is your mistake. This peak.
It's good. Yeah, I've heard really good things.
It is better every week. I'm telling y'all. Probably number one just off these last couple episodes just in general. Absolutely outstanding. But back to Ascent, though. Talk about what we're working with, seeing how we're going to be playing this. More than likely, you're going to see that KJ. You're going to see the KO, Sova Initiator. You're going to see Jet as your and duelist, and then, well, as your flex there, you're going to have maybe an Omen as your controller. Standard old composition. And that's the thing that just really gets me about Ascent, man. We just don't see it being freshened up enough. I think, honestly, even with ISO being brought in, a lot of people are saying he's not really freshening up the game a lot. His entire kit just doesn't feel all that insane, because when you think about like a Reyna who doesn't already see much competitive play, ISO kind of feels like her to a certain degree, but instead of flashes, he has vulnerabilities, which I feel are much stronger, without a doubt. But the rest of his kit has to be a little underwhelming as a kind of a trade-off there for how strong the vulnerabilities can be. We just need something different here. And I think a Cypher is still applicable in that sense here towards Ascent. Obviously, you have these trips. They're just universal. They don't really have to be, taken care of like a KJ bot. They just go ahead, you leave them somewhere, and you can work anywhere around the map. But I think, honestly, with the retakeability of having that lockdown, that's the only reason KJ is really selected in positions like these, because you're still delaying, you're still doing the same exact thing, but knowing that you have that lockdown and seeing how small these sites are, it just completely nullifies the map and just kind of forces people off. So, I mean, it's stale. It is what it is, though. I think maybe if you want to throw out a little wrench in there, throw an Astra instead of a Omen for a controller, because she still has so much potency that just doesn't really feel like it's utilized to the full potential.
I think the issue with Astra for a lot of teams is typically when you have an Astra, you kind of want them to lead a little bit, right? Though their tempo dictates the pacing for your team, and that's why Astra was really dominating, because it was your best clinical leader that was really leading the foray off of that controller. Omen can assist where needed, but they aren't saying, okay, 3, 2, 1, Whirlpool's out, I've got a stun, Cosmic Divide's in. They're not spamming utility. The comms are entirely the Astra. It's like, okay, smoke's down, let's push. It's simple behind the scenes, and it doesn't even have to be the Omen to do that. If you pick up the Astra, your team's got to be really willing for that Astra and have the role, the player that can do so. I think Bubbles can do it. I mean, he sounded like he had some leading prowess maybe in the Discord comm in the interview we had. He seemed pretty willing to get into the action, but I don't know, dude. I keep him over on the Sentinel instead, please. Don't do anything else. Bubbles, I love you, but if you play anything else but Cypher, I'm gonna cry. So
we're getting word from Reach, who asked in the chat. She said, any ISO players in here? And somebody, each team had an ISO player, but they said the team won't let me. So
no,
it's the teams that are stopping things this week. That's a little salty, but it is what it is. Maybe if we have somebody like B or Lichiro, go ahead and throw to Yoru, just a throw, kind of, tick them off. Show them that you can play whatever you want to play.
ISO is
drag
playable.
Out.
ISO is playable this week. We do have confirmation as well from Fred, he himself. So, I mean,
they're hovering it. They're listening to us.
They're teasing us. Yeah, they're teasing us for sure.
Maybe Reach just asked, and they're like, oh, they want to see ISO.
Be fair, DJL, you better be playing ISO. Come on, dude. You teased it earlier, and then you switched off too. And now Rishi does the same thing. You guys are so darn.
We called out the comps. So notice the comps. Look, they're hovering it. These are going to be the comps.
Yeah.
Wow, guys, innovative gameplay. It's so different.
Hey, guys, KJ, Sova, maybe a Jet, a KO, an Omen. That'd be kind of cool to bring to the map ever since.
Like I did say, though, if you want to freshen things up, whoever has a Sentinels of Light 2.0 Phantom on, I'm still upholding my deal.
He will absolutely.
I've already spent 35. I'm just waiting for God to give me that sign to spend the extra 50. I'm a click away.
Do it.
I'm not gonna say what I want to say. God does not sound like that. I'm not gonna say what God does sound like.
We're ready to go. Gotta make sure you're nice and refreshed. Speaking of refresher, in case you guys weren't here for the first game, RRG Orange took the victory over a very solid Louisiana Tech team who had a great series of wins on the lower side after getting knocked down in round 1, or after their round 1 victory, technically round 2 of the upper side of the brackets. But unfortunately, they meet their end to RRG Orange in a 13 near close win. 13, 10, 11 it came down to against them. You got to ask for something a bit wider here, especially if RRG Orange are going into the interview and saying they're winning this 13-0 and they're pushing or getting pushed. Georgia Tech, they lose out, but this push-0 on the other end is gaining them kills and they'll go up.
Man, when I thought you were talking about refreshing, I thought you were going to go ahead and do a Red Bull advert, but I mean, still, we got the energy in the lobby, man. It doesn't matter whether or not we're supplying.
Wings too, they're running it.
Yeah, they are getting themselves right into that spawn right off the rip and just leaving one player left to just kind of sit about and figure out what to do. And that's going to be Lidro on the back end. Kind of sole survivor. looking to kind of make a play, at least get an opportunity available to him. But still, there's a lot of space. There's a lot of time because of how many blood was spilled initially. That, quite frankly, you're just kind of left with a wide open world where you're just playing a little more Breath of the Wild rather than Valorant at this point. Just trying to hopefully just keep your eyes out of the sight of anybody else.
Truro is free to get into the objective. But how long will that freedom last? They'll drop into the back of Boathouse over on this B side. Spike will begin to go down. And this is where GT White can make some really big mistakes, Dallas. If they swing in, not in tandem, I should say, they'll be giving away a really good chance for the win. Laturo, if you get this guy, I am irked beyond belief with S right there. B will tap the diffuser. They've stuck it to half. They're just sticking it. Laturo doesn't know. GT White, you just had the world's worst 1v1 with Ezra against Laturo, and then you just steal that. That is the most ridiculous first round and the denial of a 13-0 that RG Orange are hoping for.
Now let's put this thing in where after the first round, if somebody does get a defuse like that, everybody just gets TP'd into like an ISO ult, just has to knife it out just to see who the last man standing is.
Change my mind. Awesome if they was an ISO.
Because who's saving pistols, right? Nobody. So I think that'd be a great addition. It'd be fun. It'd be fresh. It'd make pistol rounds worth talking about and saying, oh, now we're buying guns in the next one. Because what are we doing? We're buying guns in the next one.
You would be really cool if there were like walls that could be broken down and you could like reinforce them to stop teams from going through it. Yeah, there's like verticality, like multiple floors in the map. Anyways, Rainbow Six Siege aside, RG Orange pushing in through the B side and in through market, which is actually a good spread for them considering they're at the weaker weapons. They force up just like they did against LA Tech the game prior in the first half. Looks like they're going to get this play down and they have the man advantage, Dallas.
Well, a force to come through, making things look relatively peaceful so far, especially when you see some new players lining up. You're getting a lot of damage down with our RG Orange. Able to go ahead and look like they're going to find themselves a comeback in a scenario like this. Once again, the force working out extremely well for them on this round too.
I guess the speed. Honestly, I mean, we talk about Surge on the rush into B site on their attack in the first game against LA Tech on Bind. It was the double boost out from Hookah, the great extension in towards site, the close and secure for one, and then the push in through back halls. That tempo from RG Orange really just caught off a team that is expecting to want to play close in the first place. You're circumventing the default angle they'd be expecting, and now all of a sudden you're behind them in some capacity. RG Orange running in from markets with only one or two players coming in from B main. It just kind of changes the line of sight that GT White were expecting, and it really works out for them. Getting the 1-1 and now possibly the 2-1 since GT White are gonna have to rush in through mid.
Well, early starts here. Once again, first blood's already going ahead and accumulating for the side of RG Orange. When you see games like this start to kind of pan out, you see those forces going away once again. We saw it in that first map. It results these players and kind of forces them not to have too much of a buy considering the money and how they already forced it so much earlier on. And even then, RG spent less money for the attacking side where they had the spike and they're getting extra cred off the back of that. But they're getting extra blood too there for the likes of Hell. Surge bringing the Hell over to GT White, but still not too much to work with now. You have the player advantage, you have the guns, you have the numbers there. So more importantly, you should have the round.
Rifle somewhere that needs to be collected. I don't think they get it at all. There was a Vandal on the floor somewhere. Maybe it dropped within the dark cover that was placed moments prior in that retake or in the attempted retake there for GT White. But as a big loss that I think our RG Orange are going to be slightly aggravated with. They do get away with the Bulldog that they were really harping on previously, a Spectre, a Stinger. They're happy with that. And they're going to go and say, you know what? Two players didn't have much at the end of that round. We did lose those two. Give them rifles. Give them something to work with. They want to play for the fourth round on top of the third they had. Didn't everyone tell you can't have your dessert before you eat the rest of dinner? Because right now they've started off with a very sweet treat for the second and third round, and now they're trying to get to the main course of this meal, the thickening stages of this first half, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And GT White is going to be better prepped as they're folding much farther back, which is the wisest decision they've had so far in the series.
Yeah, playing pretty slow here towards the middle of the map as well. Like that kind of emphasis they're going for. Sure, you already lost a player towards that B side of the map with the Odin already spraying through, but that's a little bit of a feed there in the kill feed to let you know, okay, that's what they're working with so far. That's what they're going to be doing. So you got to see exactly how you're going to be working the rest of this out to make sure to kind of get this equilibrium. That Odin that was over towards that B side, you're not really too concerned about it. You found some guns to be dropped in the meantime. And even better yet, you also had a door to be dropped. So You know, you have this A control, you have the spike, you have that extra creds accumulating for the rest of the team. But what else does that result in? Well, another blood. So a big sense for RRG Orange here is they've got themselves not only one, but two. But speaking of two, there's only two remaining on both sides.
DJL
Last player standing.
on the plate does go down, but they got 3 kills before, and that's all you need. B will swing out for the final frag, take down Bubbles, the best player we saw in our previous series. And RNG Orange are not only failing to get the 13-0 right at the very beginning of this game, they're now tied up 2-2 with GT White. And I gotta say, I still think it was worth it from them, that force, because look at this next round they're coming up. Everyone can have full armor and rifle, and the same thing most definitely cannot be said for GT White. And this is one of those stages where your IGL is gonna have to call out. The team's gonna have to come to a big decision. How do we match the energy from ROG Orange? What can we do? They gotta go with rifles. They don't want to save. They're gonna have to save anyways if they were to lose. So go ahead and send the whole horse in and try to follow behind with some little bit of efforts, as they'll send out, assumedly, a paranoia or a dark cover over here towards B lobby to get a bit of information or denial with these little jiggle peeks that are being attempted from B.
I mean, I said it earlier on blind. I always prefer, if your team matching up against another team, I would love to just kind of force out 1-1-1 rather than actual just outright 3-0, because it throws them completely off. But the biggest thing is what it comes down to is when you find more kills in that first round as a result, you can maybe get yourself a little more ultimate. So with the Hunter Sphere already being employed in a round like this and having it available to you, for both sides better yet, it really raises some questions on how the rest of this lobby will go. And that thing will be thrown out, whether or not it'll actually find any hits, because this is a map where we like to see a lot of people just pop it right off the start of spawn and not really find anything. So if you could actually get some effects out of that, find at least some damage, maybe on 2 people, at least 2 shots, whether or not it's on the same person, you can say an ultimate is very much worth it there. And already going ahead, being invested, we talked about it, found a hit on one person already, got some damage, but it only found 1 hit collectively. So that's 80 damage. That's sure can't be restored by anybody with no sky, no stage, but still doesn't do much knowing that you still lost a player in the meantime for it.
30 seconds
That
left.
KO found a kill. Everybody else hasn't really lost anything. Meanwhile, RG Orange has lost 3 of their players.
B gets the information they were hoping for. Yeah, there's a player on B side, but the play is going to go down no matter what. Roblix, you cannot allow that to happen in Surge. Where have you been? Is this a flawless round for GT White? Because it sure as hell looking like it. Unless Lacharo can step up to the plate, swing, no miss, 2 for 1 special, but an ace is required from this individual, and this seems so darn impossible. They're being pressured from double in. Zumba inside B main. B is just sticking this. I think Lacharo is aware of that fact. They're not going to win this one out, but they can make this expensive for GT White, and knocking down 3 by your lonesome is probably the best possible way to do so, and to keep the weapon you're holding on to.
It's good enough. Knowing anything, you already invested it from the shadows as well. So, I mean, knowing you already got the majority of that thing back off a round like that, you are more than happy with the result at the end of the day. But still, considering that you found yourselves a lead here for GT White, getting right back into the flow of things, that could be a much bigger risk that we're seeing RG Orange take than anything else, because they made sure to get the force up earlier. That's not the case now. You can't find weapon advantage. You can't find the element of surprise anymore. You don't have the ultimates. You have a null command. That's about it. But they have a Hunter's Fury. They have one of their own in the null commands. I mean, they can go ahead and play aggressively if they want. And better yet, they can also hold it down towards that B site with the Odin hand.
Ezra being forced to fall back is an issue, but GT White know that they can just bide their time. DJL's assistance is good, but like you said, they're not spraying. Where's the fire? You've got the Odin in hand. Bring the thunder alongside it. Where are those Odin? There's Thor, and unfortunately it just wasn't there.
Oh my God!
Unspotted, and it's a clean pickup for 3 for GT White to climb 4-2. RG Orange, where's the confidence? Because it's surely lacking.
You have to think.
I know they had that inkling of an idea that the second one was in there, but I mean, there's no quality control whatsoever. Didn't want to lock Ezra down, and that's the guy that I'm going to go ahead and call out kind of when it came around to that. Well, nobody did well in that game against Niners, but Ezra was the one I was always kind of looking at. This is a star player we've seen consistently clutch on that KJ, especially here on the map of Ascent. And that's kind of why I'm like, every time you go here on Ascent, I'm just like, why would you let GT Tech come here? Because on Ascent, they didn't look all that strong. And that's exactly why GT Tech kind of banned that 3-site map. They're not very good at them. But still, on 2-site map, Ascent, you sure as hell better know this one. And they're showing that, well, they're kind of back to a certain degree when it comes around to it.
RG Orange, last time they found a win, a good one, going into round 2. The round 3 one was kind of expected after the round 2 win. They came in through market very quickly towards the B side, and it looks like they're attempting some of that same level of pizzazz. Reishi, the player to do so. Door is pulled as expected. But I'm more curious about the 1v1 taking place over here towards B main. Ezra looks like a KJ on KJ battle. Which doppelganger will come away with the win? But it'll be a 2-for-1 special coming out from RG Orange, and I think they're aware of that. A great fallback being made by GT White, and with that kill for the solo player over towards A, RG Orange have to expedite this push onto the B side, Dallas.
They most definitely do, considering the kind of players that are surrounding the site. Ezra once again is going to be in the back of the map, but everything you have coverage for the Hunter's Fury. You have Force kind of going ahead and providing some kind of counteraction here, but it's just not enough. Ezra was going ahead and just kind of getting surrounded on that site. They knew what the kind of capabilities of that player in the last one. So you got to shut him down early, and that's exactly what they've done. Once again, Surge getting an own result of their own, sitting around a 3K in a round like this wasn't really shown off because, quite frankly, it wasn't the last one to be knocked down. A third round here for RG Orange. Good to start kind of bouncing back, knowing what the threats are looking like now and what kind of players they should be knocking down and prioritizing depending on the site they hit. They've now gone ahead and read out the entirety of the B site, but they love that mid control. They want to go A eventually, and they found some success over there, I'd say, but you know, have they really figured it out? And I think they haven't, and that's why they're probably going to hit that B side again and see if they can replicate what they did in the last one.
You hear that, folks? Dallas says if you get a 3K or 4K, it doesn't matter if you're not the final kill in the round. That's the important one, which is kind of true in its own right. If you're not the final kill, if you're not the team winning, does it even matter what you did in the beginning if every team's going to be an even footing for the next round in terms of eco or even ult count? The only thing you're doing is padding your ego, padding your ult pips, and it even matters even less if you already had your ultimate charge and have just been wasting time to try and create the perfect opportunity or wait for the perfect opportunity. God forbid. Some teams need to really work on creating it instead of waiting. Either way, RG Orange one away from being able to tie things up, and it is a hefty stack in towards B lobby. Ezra is peeking, and they don't have any spot, but there goes Rishi. What a flick to their head. Ezra, gorgeous first pick, and DJL was there for the assistance to make sure they couldn't be sprinted upon from the Russian from KJ on the side of RG Orange.
Yep, Big Soda already going ahead, getting that first split off the board, knowing that even then the Blaze Storm probably going to come into play next round, knowing this is looking like the last rifle round, at least for this round thus far. But you can still clutch something up, you can still pass them never, you can still go ahead and share the goods and the economy across the board. But do you find yourself a scenario to even do that in the first place already? A lockdown being invested towards that A site. Going to be a little bit of a Trojan horse, but B has other plans waiting for the push on the A site to roll around. And quite frankly, I mentioned it earlier, do you have the read? Do you have the shots? And quite frankly, neither are there.
Gotta be consistent on these pushes, and unfortunately, it's something that RG Orange have to work on a little bit. They get that pick towards side, it's all nice and dandy, but now you gotta hold on for a post plan, and GT White, they're pretty good about this. The A side is a very fickle mistress. You got to be very careful dropping up out of heaven in that rafter side, and you have no one diversifying the angle just yet successfully. Down in towards tree. Ezra going for their second kill of the round. Lachoro managing to DBNO the player Zumba inside that no command. Then it leaves just the low HP individual of Ezra. Everyone else is low too, though, for RRG Orange. A single bullet will be the undoing of every single player here. But it seems still too impossible. Time is too big of a factor for success, and RG Orange will, in fact, tie us up 4-4. Unlucky Latron. Yeah. But he cannot buy this round either because of that. He's going to have to get bought by Surge.
You'll be all right. I don't think anybody can buy for him, quite frankly.
No, Surge bought for him. Surge bought for him.
It's just Rishi's going for the Blade Storm, so they're good in that regard, but still, tie game here. Good to look kind of nice and early. Everything across the board. No real needs for timeouts. No real needs for evaluation too much, at least on our side. Just some good old-fashioned Valorant where things are just looking good across the board. And knowing that even better yet, seeing that we're seeing this tie game here for RG Orange. Talking about how they only practice once a week. Talking about how they're feeling the 13-0. That's already out the gate. So, I mean, that one I'm not even mentioning because it was unrealistic in the first place. Good confidence, though. But still, knowing what they're kind of doing on this attacking side, it's good to see. They're diversifying, and that's fresh. We're not seeing too many B hits. We're not seeing too many A hits. We're not seeing them just go ahead and set up in a default naturally. They like to take this middle ground once more, and I don't think Georgia Tech really leaned into that too much. They kind of like to play these sides, and, well, it's a little bit readable to a certain degree, unless that Odin eventually becomes a judge.
DJL, a very important figure for the side of GT Whites. When they can't have an Odin, you fear for them just a little bit, but it doesn't mean this judge can't be the jury and executioner they're hoping for. Almost able to cut down Surge, needing assistance from Zumba. It's good for it. Natomiao, the Blade Storm, having to switch off of it. They just didn't find the space they were hoping for. And it is all falling apart for the defense of GT White. This is rough to see. They've definitely changed up the idea of what they were working with. And if you can scramble something together, you can come away with a win. But a Bucky, you're preying on the distance here, and it is a very long way to go. Pick up the weapon in front of you. At least the Vandal's doing well. Got to reload it, but you got time, especially with the spike having just gone down, Dallas.
One enemy remaining.
There's one. Close. I think, quite frankly, this is extremely doable for B. All things considered what's happened so far, but even then, if the spray isn't there, your kill most as hell isn't going to be. So a fifth one on the board here for RG Orange. Good stance for that post-plant scenario. A little bit risky with the player that has 0 health, kind of putting the spike down, but there is considerations for both sides of the argument. And already a 5th round for RG Orange, going to look to nothing but a from the shadows to maybe capitalize for a 6. But with some things looking relatively close, I'd say, with that null command available for Bubbles coming up here soon, we got to go ahead and kind of look at that guy. The top frag in the last game, not looking all that hot here, but still showing extremely good presence in this game. 7-6, but don't forget the extra 6, because those assists are going to go ahead and show what these KOs are made of, and that's their entire purpose. But the purpose of duelists is to get into the fight, start things early and shutting Bubbles down, meanwhile getting killed in process.
Zumba's forced to fall back, and you highlighted the lack of a Sky or a Sage in total for the team, which is not shocking for Ascent to say. Means that they'll be forced to stay at the low HP they had. RG Orange were making good use of the Sky regrowth in our previous series against LA Tech. Maybe it's one of the reasons why we're seeing this be a close affair with GT White, but I would hardly say that's the case. They're working in towards the B side once again. They really like this B objective. Whether they hit it fast or hit it slow, they just hit it the majority of the times. But GT White will hit just as strong back. And even if they've got weak weapons like they did, they can still make it a close 2v1 or even 1v1 with B, almost coming away with that win. Ultimate utilized to the back of B side and Boathouse. Information is there. You got at least 2 players spotted, I think, and that is the case. Rishi uses the intel to get DJL, and B is forced to get the heck out of Dodge. GT White left with just 2, but it's at least good for 1 more.
30 seconds
RG
left.
Orange, once again, with these kind of gun advantages, these man advantages, just so much to work with
Spike
here.
planted.
It's huge. I mean, you really can't blame them for going for this B side at this point. They've showed so much success just getting onto the side and at least getting into a post plant that they know they can guarantee themselves at least those extra 300 creds every single round. And knowing that could be the difference between a buy round and a save round later on in these kind of later stages of this half. So it's good on them to go ahead and know what they kill and what they don't. And honestly, if only one practice is all it takes to kind of realize that, it's not really the hardest thing to kind of recognize. And quite frankly, you can't blame them for just dedicating themselves to it. With 2 players remaining, both being 1-tap, you got to play around the pinch. You got to wait for that backup, because Ezra, this is the man that we saw clutch earlier, but quite frankly, with barely any time on the clock, it's going to be a lot more difficult to really get done.
If you're not a good shot
Round
today,
win, RG Orange
there are other
guaranteeing
ways to
a
do so.
6 even split at halftime and 4 in a row to bury the mood and tempo of GT White even further. They were already getting a big spree for themselves when it came down to round 4 through 6. Anything past that has since eluded them, though it has been quite close in their attempts. They're starting to run at their wits' end. Look at this round result with only 2 left. If they lose this, Dallas, despite having losers bonus going their way, I doubt Ezra is still going to be able to buy up something afterwards. They have 0 credits to their name in this round. They'd get a couple towards the end of tidbits. They need to win it, and they are working it very difficult to do so when the single shots that can go out from RG Orange could be their undoing. And they've been spraying fairly consistently. I think they've been doing much better in the early stages of this game in comparison to the middle stages against LA Tech when they started to make the comeback in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing a lot more prowess. They're kind of looking a lot more better because they're also on the attacking side. So, I mean, they're required to step up and kind of engage these fights. But, I mean, the way they're taking it, they were looking pretty hot on their attacking side as well when they found the switch up. I think it was that kind of early confidence of the LA Tech game that they've been giving them kind of the willpower to play to this degree so far in this matchup. Just knowing that they can kind of win their fights. They can set the tone on attack, and sure, it was a little lackluster there for a little bit with a possible comeback starting to surmount, but honestly, that same kind of relevance is all they're looking for here. Already guaranteeing themselves an even half at the end of the day. When they swap things up, they say we go right back to defense, and don't worry, we had our MVP who's not on Cypher now, but still kind of showing what they're made of. They're going to have another half to kind of feel themselves and once again
30
hold those
seconds
angles in
left.
the same manner.
0 point goes out. I think this has been fully dodged by RG Orange. But with this bit and the ult pit being touched, that's going to be information audio cue wise and visually for GT White that it is in fact a push. Quickly coming onto the A side, B with the paranoia slows down RG Orange, but it can't slow down Surge with a huge spray down with the Odin.
10
Good for
seconds
2, but Bubbles and Reishi become victims on the other end. Time is ticking further your favor, GT White, and you will take the win purely off of it, it seems. With Bubbles stuck in the deviant node state and just Surge remaining, that Odin can't spray forever. That was the round they had to win to be able to get another buy. Justice disjointed to the last, but another buy just like it for this one.
You can call them the timeout too. Use them or lose them kind
Beautiful.
of scenario here, and then just go ahead, get it off. See if you can guarantee yourself the last round because RG Orange, as you can tell, they're 1 off of the Hunter's Fury. The 3 off for the lockdown. On the attacking side, you're not going to really force too much out for your KJ because they can tell by the money you're not going to be able to go for a full investment, and you're not giving Roplix that gun for absolutely no sense there. So already with the lockdown, with the Hunter's Fury, you have a lot of chances, not only just for initial spike denial, but better yet, just kind of a lockdown and a cutoff, better yet, for that lockdown. Looking for players, thinking if it's going towards that B site, line a player towards middle. Shoot that catwalk, have them run back towards the middle, and then you got fish in a barrel at that point. Or even in, look to the back of the site, shoot those 2 corners that never really gets covered. You have a lot of opportunities here by GT White. I think it's a great time out just to kind of get an idea and a game plan of how they're going to be executing that. But you can see RG using that time just as effectively. They're pinging the middle of the map. They're looking for that mid control. And they're saying if we overwhelm B from the back, we may cut a couple of these players off. And with that KJ being the most important right now, with Ezra being that guy that we've seen accumulate so much in this game so far, you kind of want to lock him down.
You know somebody's heating up so well. You gotta take those extra steps to get them out of the kitchen. Cannot let them cook any further. RG Orange, they know they're at 6. And they know they're not in the best of straits. Paranoia goes out. Big rush coming in from Atomiao, who has not had a great series.
Ooh, yeah.
And we know that they can't. We have seen GT White Dallas a lot so far here on the SEL. Maybe not as much as LA Tech, but still quite a few times to be able to show what Atomiao is capable of. And it just doesn't seem like they're doing so well here. Smoke will dissipate thanks to the new visual cue. Who else would know any other way besides timing? There goes the 0 point, and Rishi knows that Zumba is there, but do they know B is inside Winery?
Well, maybe. Earlier they didn't, but keep in mind, B also missed every single shot on the player, so hopefully you just don't do that again. But all things considered, Hunter's Fury available. Atomio, you're not really concerned about that player dropping out. I mean, the rest of your team's kind of been carrying this game anyways, kind of just able to go ahead and bear that load on themselves. So they're holding out extremely well. Maybe we're waiting for Atomio's attacking side to really start waking up. But considering that Georgia Tech has found themselves an outstanding defense thus far, they have at least some sheds of light here for the attacking side. 6-6, 7-5, you're never really sure, but you're guaranteed at least one of those two. It's kind of a 50-50 that could result in whatever, unless RG Orange are just able to go ahead and push. And even with the kind of, I'd say, subpar rifling, they're still working with the numbers, showing what they can excel in and making the most out of a bad scenario. So good looks on them to guarantee that 7-5. Going over to the defense, you're not going to have that Cypher as we mentioned earlier. And Riplix isn't looking nearly as strong of a Sentinel as we did see out of Bubbles earlier, but hey, there's a lot more time left in this game. We have an entire half, and you can wake up at any moment.
Is RG Orange going to be the better defensive team, or are they going to say that, well, Taki was their better side? They're going to hold on for the second. There's not enough wiggle room for it to be a hold-on half. GT White did very well if that was the case. But if it's not the case, RG Orange are going to have a field day for the second half. Dallas, you gave me the weirdest tinge there. You said 8-6, or said 6-6, 7-6, or whatever it was, and I immediately thought of the 8-6. I immediately thought of the 8-6-7-5-3-0-9 jingle, and just like I just got blindsided by that very quickly. It just caught me in a moment there. Totally zoned me out for a minute. But I will say, RG Orange, if they are a defended sided team, they have to show it in this first pistol round. We know they can come back and do a second round push like we saw before. If you're on the defense, it's much harder to use that space closing prowess that you were doing with Surge previously, and even still in this map. You gotta make sure you take the pistol round of the defense.
I'm just curious to know on this half, I think a big determining factor, we've already seen Fishy go ahead and grab that first kill. doing their duelist job correctly, but Atomio, once again, look at this. First death for the side of GT, or not first death, but like on the actual entry and pushing up to the side. It comes out the difference. Are we going to see Atomio be a, a speed running orb for your inventory? Or are we going to see them actually be a legitimate frag system on the attack? That's going to be the determining factor. Quite frankly, it comes down to Atomio. As much as I hate to put the pressure on this guy, it comes around to the point where you're the duelist, you're the bottom frag in a scenario, didn't off on that last half at all, didn't really provide anything in terms of a wild card. And now that you're on the attacking side and your aim isn't really seeming like it's too warmed up yet, as I mentioned, at that point, you're just a walking orb. And you can't be that. You can't set up these ultimates, especially considering that you're running into more than likely with your dash into a sentinel over the likes of a controller. Last thing you want to do is hand that thing to KJ all day.
Consistency is a problem that plagues a lot of teams, and I think for RRG Orange, if you're pushing in really quickly for the first pistol round on the attack, the mindset's going to be the same thing on the defense, and they held back. They kept themselves in control, and they took advantage of what our GT White were doing, which was a very aggressive stance. 2-player stack in towards the back flank there, towards the Radianite crate and the objective on A. They chit that switch down, but RRG Orange just bide the time. They play smart. They'll take the win in a close affair, but still take the win where needed. Surge in the back of Boathouse had the 1v1 they were hoping for, but they didn't spot a Tomiao just meters away from the 1v1 they thought they had. They'll go down in the process. Ezra, down goes Roplix. A big pickup, and a Tomiao joins back into the fray. A 4v2, and half the players to the side of RG Orange have already taken a big lick of damage. Collectively, there's maybe 110 HP between the two. Lechero somehow goes off scot-free against Zumba. Bubbles is dead to rights, dead here from Atomia's 3K, and DJL secures the final pick where needed. And it is, in fact, another 1-1 position.
Okay, we know the
What
drill.
is going on in the final
Stick
few
to
stages of
your roles and
SEL
we'll
right now?
crush it.
Remove that gun.
The Stinger.
I used to love it.
You
Don't get me
did.
wrong.
You used to
But
rant
just
about it,
hearing
but you love it.
everybody buy it, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It's from everybody. It's horrendous. But I mean, regardless, though, I mean, you look at the forces you mentioned is a good replication there by GT White.
Yeah.
Same regard, going for the forces, getting those stingers, getting those guns now, looking for the 1-1 exchange, and even better yet, getting a bulldog in the process, and now have a vandal off the back of it. So you've got a lot of rifles to work with. And it's funny enough that your duelist is supposed to be the first in line, is sitting in the back of the map, waiting with that rifle in hand, looking to see if an initial pick can come their way.
You can get this first blood. You open up way more opportunities for your team. And I think RRG Orange are very aware of the fact that GT White are going to play a little bit more passively. In fact, remember, RRG Orange is the same team that on our previous game against LA Tech could play an attacking round where they push direct onto the site, and yet the next round not push to the final 6 seconds where they're in dire straits to get down that spike to stay alive. They know the game. They know it because they wrote it and they were a part of it through and through. GT White are not fooling them whatsoever. Even the players you'd expect to get a little bit more aggressive, maybe towards Puppy Hold, maybe in through Arch's side, where you want to put a player towards Winery. They're holding back. They did get one towards Winery. That is a good spot to sit in, but that does mean you're going to have no one defending this B site aggressively. Even your K-Days only placed the turret there. So you'll get that information, but by then GT White will have a plant down, and the B site will be a very hard retake, as you'll have to go through with praying you have a numbers advantage, which is just very unlikely to occur.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the guns, and now they're already working out here. If you could have found a first blood like that right off the get-go for Roplix, they could have gone ahead and set a lot of tones. But even keep in mind, a lot of those teammates don't have a Vandal as well, so they just would have picked the thing right up and sacrificed whatever they got, barely giving somewhat of an upgrade to the right to these other players. So as we're pushing through smoke, everybody else getting on the site, 9 seconds left on the clock. You don't care about time anymore. It just comes down to the spike actually being down in the post plant and looking to once again try to beat GT White inside of this cage, this B site. They took control of it earlier with the Stingers, and now they don't all have Stingers, but they definitely got better guns than you. And quite frankly, this is the best site to play when you have something fully auto.
Suppressed. Tomiao does not care. I mean, knowing that RG Orange are heading into this one with very few weapons, you also to the front, you got 3 HP, get a couple damage out, a couple bolts out there. But even Roplix had no HP to work with. They were also their own scapegoat in the process. And Tomiao tries to make the great escape. Great pickups from RG Orange. Honestly, they're playing for these exit frags, and they got 2 of them. But unfortunately, they didn't get the final 2 they were hoping for. And the spike was nowhere near able to get them either. It's GT White now 1 round away from tying us up 8-8. And RG Orange kind of at their wits' end for success. But maybe Rishi on the operator, which I think is kind of a bold play here, Dallas.
Yeah.
Could be the big thing that gives RG Orange a clinical edge, but I just don't know how well the operator is going to strike if they're not positioned over there towards tree for that link side crush.
I think honestly, I mean, a B main push would be great. Combining that with the Odin, because so many players like to go ahead and kind of bypass that with no real threats there. Even in the A main push, we've seen a lot of emphasis on that. We've seen these early aggressive pushes, and already with the missed shot going out there, it's a little unfortunate to say the least, but still, knowing that operator's there, you know that A site can kind of be cut off. It's more about that pressure, kind of following those players somewhere, saying, do they go for a full investment on the site and it just kind of goes ahead and gets fumbled in the meantime, where you already have the majority of your players allocated towards a half of the map? Or do you want to kind of just say, forget the op, rotate, and then they've kind of funneled you into exactly what they wanted? It always provides something, whether it be mental or whether it be literal. And quite frankly, it's already doing its job, setting up towards tree, maybe looking to hit that second shot.
Tell me, I will have to fall back from the initial play coming in over towards tree. When you don't really have the utility as a jet to extend into that position safely, you're praying that there's not a third player lurking in through the door, connecting out to the A site. That's exactly the case. Latro is there waiting to really rely on the initial element of surprise for the first extender out from GT White. B, paranoia at the ready. Probably a dark cover as well to close out both rafters and or that door side for the initial information denial. But you've left the lone straggler of DJL in
left.
towards market side, towards defender spawn, and they are hunting for it. And I think we see RRG Orange readily aware of this fact. DJL may have had a sliver of their skin spotted, able to isolate one, almost gets the second, but Surge will punish as the push is now forced to come out for GT White onto the A site purely
10
off
seconds
of time as red time ticks further away and the spike has to go down.
No door closed just yet. They went ahead and slipped right past, just thinking the smoke would be enough, and it essentially was already, though. Looking at this kind of a retake scenario, you got to consider, two of these players are literally one shot, have nothing to their name except maybe a tip of health, and already it comes down to the kind of roles that you're dealing with. The KJ can be a little more better knowing you're in that post-plant scenario. Just work with the utility, let them sit there on site. Problem is, you're on site with it. You didn't have an escape route. You had a player going ahead, backing up to that door, taking shots in the meantime, while your stuff is also really lit. Rishi, Surge, and Roplix all working together, getting one of their own, making one of the cleanest retakes we've seen so far.
Yeah, when you know you're at a player that's already been low, Surge has taken a confrontation that wasn't necessarily pretty towards defender spawn, and they've got to step back up. They've got to be the leader in that, getting the information, playing shock darts, whatever they have at their, wherewithal. They have to step up big. And I think for RG Orange, and around where they were starting to matriculate rounds further to GT White, getting one there that spreads their margin back to 2, it's a good standing to be in, and they don't lose the operator. Something I think is very important for their overall strategy. They're really wanting to bring it every single time. I don't think I've seen Rishi really be the end-all be-all with it. I would maybe expect like Bubbles to have it over there towards Tree, because we have seen that KO.
Though.
The extreme, yeah, that's the issue. It is the KO. But they've been the one person locking down towards Puppy and Tree in the first place, which is where you expect that operator to be. Otherwise, it doesn't have as much impact. But there is the chance here and now in through market if it wasn't for the dark cover and door switch being pulled.
Not gonna do much with that operator right now, but still, Surge can do a hell of a lot with that Vandal in hand. Already 3, make it a 4!
Spike
This
down.
guy's eyeing an ace, but you're in a stage of the game where, quite frankly, you don't give a shit. Give it to a player, let him close it out, and get yourself double digits as fast as you can.
You already are pissed off, Dallas. You thought this was going to be 13-0, and RG Orange had thrown this the other way. It's gotten way too close for comfort. A one-round disparity at a point or another. They got to get their margin back in their favor. And Surge opens it up with a beautiful round to get their double digits they're hoping for, and put GT White in another position where, yeah, they've got rifles, they got no armor, or soft armor, I should say, and a loss here means they'd have to save up anyways. GT White are gonna really hound for a slow play here for an early pickup and use that as a way to force a rotate for RG Orange to hit the opposing site. And you can tell that by the default they're working with. A 2-3 split, rotating the 3 back to a 2, give them control on the B side, obtain that spike, and leave that Omen who can place their smokes from across the map as a person to cut off the rotate away from the A site as they try to go in for the B site retake.
Yeah, already once again, I mean, you can't blame these guys. Sure, that last round of B didn't work out all that well, but I mean, hey, a lot of the rounds did. And maybe you're on the opposing side of the map, but I mean, RG Orange, I mean, you can tell they really love this B side. They love not only just kind of hitting it, but they love holding it as well. So seeing kind of how they've worked this out thus far, a Hunter Sphere available to them. I'm curious what that's going to do. You're probably going to be holding that for a little while longer, but knowing that still you're at least delaying the inevitable. You're still getting some good shots. Once again, Atomio, too. I talked about this guy. I mean, you just got to have that. You gotta have that wake-up moment. Quite frankly, it's the rest of the team, once again, as I mentioned, kind of carrying that weight, looking for compensation here, but you're not finding too much in the meantime. 100 Fury could have invested there as a little bit of a counter activity, but still that Sova was killed, so therefore you know it's going to be free, you know it's going to be open, but even then more so, what is open is everywhere else in the mapping. As a result, we see a huge rotation come through from GT White, looking to get some exchanges there, but still nothing to their name just yet.
That was a beautiful chance. Just see a shot with the operator connect over the top of that smoke, and it just doesn't work out. Roplix, though, gets one. Downed and dusted by Zumba, who's below in hell, and has assistance from Ezra. They're just the same. DJL on the flank, can't get there once, but Zumba's good for it. Gets three before falling to Rishi. A missed opportunity, a missed opportunity, and Bubbles has to close out instead. It's RG Orange retaking the site successfully, thanks almost entirely to the Bubbles play up in Rafters, not just for the one for the slow rotate in from the flank side, but also for the play being taken down in L. That was a very big pickup for Bubbles, who, despite the performance they had just last series, has been a little bit more absent, but I won't say absent, a little bit more silent so far in the kill factor, which is where Surge has really stepped up to the plate.
I mean, you're playing your Russell Westbrook game, right? I mean, you're going for the triple-double. You're looking to go ahead and just kind of have yourself a game, and you're looking to kind of contribute in every single factor. Get in the fights, make sure you're there, make sure, obviously during his OKC era, but still, you're getting in there, you're looking for kills, you're looking to take shots, you're taking shots, better yet, and even you're also just still here for the rest of the squad. And that's the point of a KO. When you're watching a KO, sure, kills matter, but good God, assists matter more. Because of how easy it is to acquire those to show that your presence is definitely within the game and how much utility you have, especially with one critical piece of utility that has a assist like threshold. An assist timer, what feels like minutes. Like, it feels like if you just suppress somebody in a round, you just get an assist off the back of them. So already, though, with the 4 ultimates available so far, good hits to come out here early. Lichero able to go ahead and get one, so it means a good exchange to a certain degree, but with that Hunter's Fury coming out from the defensive side, you're looking to once again delay, and you've done that to a certain degree. You got some damage down, but man, there's a huge investment in a round like this where, quite frankly, it doesn't matter who wins or loses this one. Everybody's going to be taking a price to a certain degree as we see Surge taking the price of their life.
Lockdown being utilized here for RG Orange, and Bubbles getting a good pickup on his Zumba. DJL, where's the ultimate going, and why is it doing nothing? Huge kill with the fragments. Rishi with the operator. Serious point. You're at championship point to head into the grand finals.
Match point.
I said it earlier, man. Even off that 11th round win, I think, quite frankly, just off a round like that, RG just kind of close it out. That was a move of desperation in that last round. You saw him kind of going for it, and you can't blame him. It looked good there for a little bit. They tried to catch him up in the chaos, but RG Orange have had a pretty easy going half to where they can throw everything out there. It's a guaranteed match point, and that's how you do it. If you're cruising, just don't worry about it. Completely. If you only have 3 abilities and you're doing just fine with that, there's no need for a point. It's there as a luxury. It's there as kind of like a final nail down with the hammer. Once again, we talk about these jets. Tomio on the opposite side of the map with that blaze storm, as I mentioned earlier, has to be that catalyst, has to be that duelist player. Hasn't really done much just yet, but Rishi, good God, if he hasn't woken up here in this half.
Roblix blind firing through the smoke. And that will be all she wrote. Just a Tomio left. Yeah, the Blade Storm is there, but it's a 13-7 scoreline. A big rout for RG Orange. And we knew they were capable of it. They were so damn confident in the interview with Bubbles there towards the end. But it wasn't the 13-0 they were asking for. But it was the second half they were asking for. That's as clean as you can get it. Give them 2. Give them no more. Gorgeous defending play style. No chance, it felt like, on any of those pushes to see something substantial brewed up for the opposing side.
I mean, yeah, just seeing the way it worked. I mean, we obviously have to go ahead and take a look over on the defensive side initially. I talked about it. I'm not going to beat this guy up all night, but I mean, that was just not a pure jet diff, but it was pretty significant. I talked about the operator. You didn't find to go ahead and kind of bring that curve ball out on the defensive side of the map. It doesn't matter where it's brought. As I said, it's a mental thing. It's not a literal thing. Sometimes it can be if you're that operator player, but still just hearing that cannon lets you know that we have to approach the site differently. Players are always expecting full rifles. They're always expecting to kind of play it naturally, be able to swing out for free, not really have to invest too much utility. They want to kind of hold it for the post or whatnot. And they say smokes can cover a lot of things for us right off the get-go, and we can smoke ourselves out and then maybe just kind of do that 1-2 smoke flash combo. But when you have an operator there, they're playing the game differently. They're waiting around corners, they're waiting for the entries, they're hearing those flashes to go off. They get one kill and they're out of there. Same thing to start off the rounds. They're pushing up, they're finding avenues, looking for early picks, and then backing up just once again, making the game just seem miserable because that's an entire player's worth of utility, assists, smokes, flashes, whatever it may be. That's completely absent out of a game. And Atomio didn't really realize that just yet. Rishi had, I don't want to say the best in the world of an attacking side, but at least did his job to a certain degree where you can say he traded himself out consistently every single round. As I mentioned, it was a 50-50 there with Atomio on that first half. I said going into the second, he's either going to be a walking orb or he's going to be an impact player. And sadly, he just was not in the game this week. I mean, the rest of the team, they did a great job carrying his weight. And I mean, you really can't put him down for that. He's had his amazing works where he's had his fair share of clips. We've given him his praise.
Yeah.
But it feels like just once again, just like last week, it just wasn't one of his opportunities. The last week, it felt like Ezra, who was kind of faltering, definitely came back in sparkling colors this week. But still, I don't know what more you can really do for him here.
Yeah. As much as it is for Atomio, it can happen, right? And it's not even just saying that like Rishi was the end all be all. I think the overall team for the side coming out for UTSA was all around firing at all cylinders. An okay first half, good by all accounts, but it wasn't like the wow factor they were really, hyping us up for in the interview. The second half was, right? Give them two, that's it. You'll let the rest of it matriculate your way. You're going to dominate through and through. The whole team just had Atomio's number. You can't rely on that. One man can't be your whole army, but when they are absent and they're used to being your whole army half the time, which we have seen from Atomio, my goodness, can they play? And they are so darn good at that duelist. It's very noticeable when it's absent. And it's something that as a team, you'll have to work towards because you can't step up every single game. Tins has their down players, right? Ye had off moments, and it's one of the reasons why they're not necessarily playing anymore, right? Like,
hey, he's in the APAC region now. You watch.
Okay, true. Yes, he did move. He was forced to move because no one wanted to pick him up in an A because he also has, out of game.
It's just a funner reason to watch, though, if we're being real.
That is true. But like we're saying, the team has to step up to the plate, and it's something they're going to have to think about next season and for any other contests and competitions they're in, because they're now unfortunately dipping out of the SCL. We'll have to say our final goodbyes to them. But what a hearty show they have given to this point. They face off against the possible victors out of Niner Esports or the possible victors out of UTSA.
Yep.
And they working their way all the way in. They're getting third and or fourth place, no matter what. And now we know who's in our grand finals. UTSA facing off against Niner Esports. And that means for LA Tech, that is for 100% sure. Your only losses are the grand final teams. Woo! Yep. Coping is there in the back of your mind.
I mean, I think honestly it's worth it. I mean, seeing that kind of caliber of the team and what they provided this season so far and the kind of run they had in the playoffs, I think, it was kind of expected to a certain degree. If they weren't going to be in the grand finals, they were going to be facing grand final only teams. And I think that's kind of a testament to what they've done so far, saying that honestly, they were just as worth of being in the grands as anybody else. And I think that's the case for any team that really made it this far. They were to hold their own to get to the point in the first place. But when you're in that upper bracket, you're going up against Niners. Lower bracket, I will admit, it was a little bit more of a wild card, especially considering this last matchup to kind of give us to this point. So, it really felt like anybody's game. It just comes down now, not just to the likes of, Louisiana Tech cheering on maybe RG or whoever else. It comes down to everybody rooting together to just try and take down Niners at the end of the day.
I mean, they are the giant, right? You got a sling. Who else grew up thinking a sling was a slingshot, right? Like, you think it was this little thing. No, those things are deadly. And right now, you've already got a lot of momentum built up for that swing. You got to hope that sling can topple the great giant that is Niner Esports, because no one has accomplished that feat just yet. And they are primed to try to go flawless all the way through, like we had for our first, I believe, 2 seasons for Rocket League here for SEL. So having the first season of Valorant also have a flawless victor all the way through would be quite entertaining. But man, do I want to see a great finals showcase that even upsets Niner Esports. I'd be happy with the result either way, but that'd be a great story to have the comeback through lower to make it all the way in and take down the Giant at the end of the day. We're going to have an interview coming up after a quick little break. Make sure you do not go anywhere. We've got a player on the side. I believe it's Surge, actually.
Yep.
We got a player on the side here for the winning team, UTSA. We'll have a couple questions, so don't go anywhere. We'll get that one ready to go underway.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. On we'll go, finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest, echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways.
Dallas, when you got to play 2 games a day, like we've seen so much throughout playoffs here, honestly, losing in the uppers and dropping to the lowers, but then now 2 lowers, it can get a bit tough. But the confidence was there. 13-0 was proclaimed. It didn't happen, but it still was a very dominant victory on a very even map of a sit most of the time. 13-7 is as clean as you can ask it for. And Surge, the proprietor, the big man at the top of the scoreboard that they swear aren't just picking top fraggers for these interviews, is here in the booth with a couple questions ready to be answered. How you doing, Surge?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Now, for the program, everything you've done to this point, you've had wins, you've had losses stating to it. You got dropped, obviously, but the big team at the end of the board, you made it all the way through, is Niner Esports. How are y'all feeling heading to this one? You got 2 weeks to practice.
We're feeling good, man. We're pretty excited. We've been having a lot of fun playing together. We don't practice too often, but we get along well. Our comms have been getting better. So yeah, we're just excited more than anything.
I think that's fair. I mean, considering, the way you guys have been practicing, apparently we were notified earlier. It's only once a week.
Once a
But,
week.
it's still, y'all put in the work. Whenever y'all do ask to show up, y'all show up. And that's really what it comes down to. But considering that here, especially in this game today, showing up, you guys already got a sense of maybe what could be, a personal experience of actually having maybe a first relative BO3 here. Obviously, we're kind of experiencing maybe doing more BO3s next semester. But looking at this one, does this feel more like a warm-up for Niners, or do those two teams feel like they're not going to really surmount to the challenge that Niners will be? And do you feel that this really has actually set you up possibly for what that grand finals is going to look like?
I'll be quite honest. We haven't paid a lot of attention to Niners. We kind of just like to go in and play our own game at this level.
That's fair.
Um, yeah, I think. I mean, more than anything, just playing against other teams that are here to compete is definitely just like good practice. I feel like they've prepared us, if not anyone else, for this grand final.
I think honestly, even then looking at it for the entirety of the season, you guys were in a completely different pool. You were completely flawless in the Swiss. Didn't have to go through LCQ. Niners didn't go through LCQ. The entirety of the culmination of this lead together, y'all have had the complete replication to a certain degree of your records. You obviously got knocked down to lower bracket, and that wasn't even by them. Y'all haven't faced them. So, I mean, it makes sense you haven't even really paid attention to them because they're just on a completely different playing field. And it feels like almost to a certain degree, this matchup was destined to be no, on a certain note, looking at how this entire season has unfolded. So, with that being said, and going forward, are you guys going to be having the more practice leading up to this? Because I feel like this is now when all the actual VODs has to be actually kind of taken into place. You guys obviously, I mean, working on yourself is only going to do so much, understanding that these guys, y'all said, even then, Bubbles kind of called y'all out earlier. He said y'all like to troll a little bit every now and again. I always like to say that championship teams, they don't show up to play, they show up to work. And quite frankly, that Niners looks like that. I want to know if you guys, if y'all are going to bring something completely different, not just in terms of attitude, but if you guys are ready to show up and work when it gets down to that grand final.
No, yeah, I think it's a good call out from Bubbles. We tend to mess around. We like to have a little too much fun sometimes. But 2 weeks out, we will definitely put in a little more work. We're gonna check them out, see what they're up to. We're gonna do more than one practice a week, hopefully, and we'll make sure we're ready on game day for sure.
Yeah, it's not just us calling you out, right? It's a little bit of us wanting to put on the best show possible for everybody in the SEL and that big, penultimate conclusion to the season, to the inaugural season as well for SEL's Valorant side, because we've obviously had Rocket League now for a couple semesters and it's been running girl. We've had a LAN event for it, and now all of this counts for seeding for the LAN event for the end of next semester as well. So getting a win at the end of this is going to be as big as it can possibly get for you guys, right? To you punch your ticket in to come on down to the home of the South down in Alabama for Huntsville and step up to a big venue. But you got a couple nice venue locations we've scouted. You guys are not gonna want to miss it. I'm telling you, that's for sure. Are you guys excited for that? Is there any stress? Is really what I'm highlighting. Dallas has gone into the pressure. You're going to need to practice. Niner looks like this big, gorgeous team. They look like 2011, Panthers where they went, like 14-0 or whatever, and then, screwed in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm only a Cam Newton fan at the end of the day here. You look like this team that goes undefeated. Are you guys scared of that? Or are you guys, just going to do what you do, head down to the ground, make up for those trollages and get to the grind work?
No, definitely not scared. I think we'll show up ready. We'll be there. We'll be confident. We're gonna show up ready to play. Yeah, that's really it. We're excited. We're really excited. It's gonna be fun.
Excitement is very different from fear, but you do get a little shaky from either side. It just depends on how well that shakiness works. Hopefully none of y'all have the problem that we've been seeing, unfortunately, from GT White 2 weeks in a row of having the one player just kind of not hitting their fresh zone. You guys need to stay hot on it because Thanksgiving, y'all may need to watch and cut what you're eating down here because I know down south we like to have good fruit for Thanksgiving, but that may get in the way of our aiming hand or our WASD keys a bit too much. Get into a food coma for half a month. Either way, thank you very much, Serge, for joining us here for the interview. Best of luck. You got 2 weeks. The countdown starts now to get your team ready for the finals.
Thank you, guys. You have a good night.
You too. Whew, Dallas, it has been not necessarily a long day, but a good day nonetheless. 2 great series on the board. LA Tech, we've seen quite a few times, does get knocked off, but they have the luxury of saying no matter what, they lost the grand final team and the second place team. So they get to have something there to cope with, and they can fight for third and or fourth place. And GTY gets to do the same thing for them, fighting for third and or fourth place. And they lost to the grand final and second place team at the end of the day. So coping for third and fourth, but the second and first, there can be no coping. Lay it all on the table and come away with the win because you've got to do it 2 weeks from today. Yep. I'm super excited for it. Any last words here, Dallas?
Goodbye to the hair. Honestly, that's it.
Yeah, next time you see us in 2 weeks, Mick over here is going to have very short hair. He's going to be bald. It's going to be awesome. He's buzzing it or something.
I'll be buzzed. There will be follicles present, but it won't be.
He's going to get the tattoo for the hairline.
No, I'm not going to do that. Maybe it'd be for the dogs, maybe, but that'd be not if they even made the run to grand finals, would have been made. It could have. I could have said yeah, it was for UGA, but nah, it ain't that deep. Regardless, though, it is what it is. I'll be here regardless, and I'll be ready to go, whatever the cast may be.
Yeah, we're super excited for it. Me and Mick will be here 2 weeks from today after engorging ourselves on our Thanksgiving dinners up next week. I'm assuming the players will do the same thing, but they got to get back in the grind work right afterwards because Niner Esports has not been stopping their practice. They are everywhere, and they're looking to become the Titans, the end-all, be-all, undisputed champions of SCL's Valorant Season 1. We'll have to see how it goes down in 2 weeks. Don't go anywhere except for your Thanksgiving dinners. Stay watching.
Cracky.